wasn't the sorry, we missed a bit. But one of the things that seemed to be going on is it didn't seem to matter whether a student was in a large class or a small class. And so looked a little more into it. And I have to tell you, my anecdotal take on this is that if you're sitting in a large class, right, and you sit in the front row, you introduce yourself to your professor, you engage with them during class, you go to their office hours, right? You are going to do better in that class than you would if you were sitting, you know, we always like to joke, right? Like if you're an engineering student and you're going to have to take some curriculum for liberal education or some broadening classes that you have to take, right? And so inevitably, right, it's like history, and we always joke it's at 8 a.m. on a Monday, right? And so you're sitting there in class on Monday, and there's 17 students in the class, and you're sitting in the back of the classroom, and the professor starts talking, and you're like, oh, he is lecturing straight out of the book, because that's what we always tell ourselves, right? And you're sitting there with your phone or your computer, and you start swiping through your social media. Now, you're going to get an average education doing that, versus if you're in that large classroom and you're sitting in the front row and you're truly engaging with the professor, you can get a great education. I've really come to the belief that it has so much more to do with your attitude towards your education than it does the size classroom you're sitting in. If you're willing to pull your education, you're going to do great whether you're in a larger classroom or whether you're in a smaller classroom. Now, Virginia Tech puts up, if you check out US News and World Report, you're going to see that Virginia Tech advertises a 14-to-1 faculty-staff ratio. And that's definitely true when you start to get to some of the upper level classes, but there are some freshman classes, especially in engineering, that might have larger lectures, right? But if we're going to walk you through these kinds of things. We're going to give you lots of tips and tricks, like going to office hours. We're going to talk about sitting in the front row of the class, introducing yourself to your professor, right? All these things that you can do to really be someone who pulls their education rather than has them pushed at you. Okay. So, go back to the slide. So big scheme of things, right? If, let's say, we already talked about this, that we think that the average GPA coming into college is a 4.17, right? So here's a fun question, actually, and let's go back. I want to hear what people have to say. This is for students only. What do you think is the average GPA of a freshman at Virginia Tech after 1 year? Now, I'm talking all 6,500 students, not just the core. What do you think the average GPA is a year later? 4.0, 3.5, we got a wide range, 2.9, 3.7. So let me just shift it up. What do you think you're going to get your first year in college? Oh, the numbers went up a little. 3.5, 3.8, 4.0, right? So families, you get a chance. What do you think? What do you think your student's going to earn their first year in college? Are there any families out there that want to say? 3, 3.2, 2.9. Okay, so families are wondering a little bit less, right? Like, this is a great conversation point. Student thinks they're going to get a 4.0 or a 3.7. You're thinking 3.0, right? Like, this is something we need to talk about. And the question is, why is this, right? The average GPA here at Virginia Tech after 1 year is a 2.92. Now, wait a minute. 4.17 coming in, and a year later, they're averaging a 2.92. Like, what in the world is going on? And like I said, I think it's a question worth asking, right? What is going on? And I would say it's time management. So let's look at it this way. Let's say you're in high school. Let's say school starts now. Obviously, COVID-19 changed this all up, but right. But if you were if it was normal part of the year, right? School would start at 8 maybe, or 7:20, and you would get out around 2, 2:20, 3, maybe 4, depending on how late you start. And then after school, you have a ton of activities. We know you're doing a million different things. And then you come home, you eat dinner. I sincerely hope you're helping with the dishes, right? You're running out of time for that. And then then we're doing homework, right? And about 11 o'clock, rinse, wash, repeat, and we start all over again, right? You've been doing this since kindergarten. You're very good at this very compartmentalized kind of time schedule. Now let's shift and look at college, okay? Let's say you take 5 classes. Each class is approximately 3 credit hours. Each credit hour equals 1 hour sitting in the classroom. You're only going to sit in the classroom about 15 hours a week in college. You know, if we took those 15 hours and we put them back over high school, you'd be done what? Midday Wednesday? Woohoo, 40 weekend, here we come, right? Because all of a sudden, all that learning you used to do in the classroom, you figure 6 hours a day in the classroom, 2 hours of homework at night, that's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's 40 hours spent learning in high school. If we suddenly come to college and the only learning we're doing in the classroom are those 15 hours, does it make sense that we just went from a 4.0 at 40 hours, probably to be lucky to be pulling a 292 at 15? So our rule of thumb is 2 hours of study for every hour you're in class. So if you start to look at it that way, you figure 15 hours in the classroom, 30 hours of study, that's a 45-hour work week. If you come to college and you treat it like a job, you're going to be a lot more successful. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to sit down with a time planner, and we're going to do that assignment management you were going to do anyways, tests, quizzes, homeworks, plot them all out. But then we're going to go back and we're going to do time management with you. So let me share my screen real quick, and I'll show you a typical week in the life of a cadet. There we go. All right, so this is always where it gets a little bit fun, right? If you were thinking about the Marine option, you're gonna have physical fitness training Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30, 6:30. If you were a Citizen Leader Track Cadet, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 5:30, 6:30. If you're Navy, Tuesday, Thursday, 5:30, 6:30. And if you're Army, it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:30, 6:30. So of course the question is, what happened to Air Force, right? Air Force, they don't do 5:30, they do it at 8:30 twice a week, right? Now I happen to put it on Monday, Wednesday, but there's also a Tuesday, Thursday option. It's a great recruiting tool for Air Force, right? So on the days you don't have physical fitness training at 5:30, you're probably getting up around 6:20, which is every day for Air Force. And then you're gonna get into uniform. Now we wear 3 basic uniforms here. We have a short sleeve white shirt with blue-gray trousers that we wear when it's a little colder, or we wear most days. Then we have a long sleeve blue-gray shirt we wear when it gets a little colder outside. We also wear multicam. Now this is a pretty comfortable camouflage uniform. You don't have to shine the boots. The cadets would wear it every day if they thought they could get away with it, right? And then on our more formal occasions, we have a dress B uniform, which is a high collar blue blouse with white trousers when it's warm outside and blue-gray trousers when it's colder outside. And we can dress that up with cross belts. So you get into uniform, you come down, we have morning formation, we have a bugler, comes out, plays reveille, plays the national anthem, we raise the flag, pass the word, you're gonna have a quick uniform inspection and room inspection. Now, during the first 6 weeks, you're going to have those room inspections. But around the 6-week point, we are kind of hoping at the end of that, you have learned how to clean your rooms and you no longer have to stand by for your room inspection. So for those 6 weeks, you're going to stand by, which means you're going to stand outside your room with your roommates while your upper class inspect your room for the standard. If anything doesn't meet the standard, and the standard's not a secret, right? We're going to tell you what that standard is, but if anything doesn't meet that standard, they're going to point it out right there. But like I said, by the time we get to 6 weeks, we're kind of hoping by then you've learned how to clean your rooms and you no longer have to stand by for your room inspection. It kind of eases up the schedule, gives you a little more time there in the morning. And then you have about 10 hours. You have to be a professional student. This means this is your time to go to class, right? Need to be getting some extra study in. It's also, you're gonna be in uniform, you're gonna be saluting your upper class on campus. So you're still in the Corps, but you're also a student on campus during this time frame. And then in the evenings, we have 2 meals a week that we eat together. One is freshman eats, where the freshman class eats together. It's pretty relaxed. It's just an opportunity for the freshmen to get to know one another, right? Because we know that networking is one of the major things that we want you to take out of college. So it gives you a chance to meet your other freshmen. And then we have company eats. It's one other day of the week. Your company's going to eat together. This might be a little bit more intense, right? We're sitting on the front 3 inches of our chair. We're not gazing around. Our upper class can ask us questions out of our guidon, which is our little book of knowledge. Looks like this. And so we're pretty much going to ask you to memorize it, right? So you're going to have questions out of your guidon. But as an upper class, this is your 1 time a week to sit down and eat with your butts. So 2 meals a week freshman year, 1 meal a week sophomore, junior year. I know I got a lot of emails before this all started. A lot of parents were asking me, where do students eat on campus? They can eat pretty much anywhere except for these 2 meals. There is a core area in Lavery Hall on the in Turner Place downstairs. So freshman eats typically can occur there. Company eats can occur anywhere on campus. It's really up to the cadets on that. So cadets can eat most on any other location that any other student on campus can eat at. So we have 2 meals a week, and then we have 4 hours of mandatory study. Now, this is Sunday through Thursday. On Monday nights, after freshmen eat, the class is just eating together. During the first 6 weeks, you're going to have a class called Management 1945, where we're going to talk about all those study skills that we talked about, how to best read a textbook, how to study for a test, how to manage your time, right? And we're going to walk you through that. Dr. Humphrey will help you out with that. And so you're going to have that class together with all the other freshmen in the Corps for 2 hours on Monday evenings. And then the rest of that night is for study. Now, once we get past that, then you'll start to have more of those Monday nights dedicated to study. But the other nights, we have those 4 hours for first-year cadets. It drops to 2 hours for sophomores. Juniors and seniors don't have mandatory study hours, but they can't be blasting like Call of Duty as loud as they can get it, right? This is mandatory quiet hours in the residence halls, and it's maintained both by those upper class as well as the senior enlisted advisors. Now, you don't have to study in your room. You can study in the library. You can study in the math emporium. You can study in your departmental area. There's lots of other places to study. But, you know, as you start thinking about it, you think, wow, I got this English paper that's due. I've got 4 hours to get it done. It's going to take me 15 minutes to get somewhere, 15 minutes to get back, 15 minutes set up, 15 minutes break down. Maybe I'll just stay here and get it done. And you're going to find that the Corps residence halls are a quiet, safe place to study. Now that expires at 11 o'clock. So let's say you have a big test coming up and you know you want to stay up studying for it, or you've done all the right things and you know you want to get a good night's sleep before this and go to bed earlier. You can do that. You can request early lights or late lights. However, as a leader, you're going to be planning ahead for others. So we want you to get used to planning ahead for yourself. So on Sunday nights, our evening call to quarters, our study hours, start about an hour earlier. So you have a chance to get back from the weekend, get settled down a little bit, and then sit down with your time planner and really look at your week and to plan these things out and put those requests together so that they can be approved and ready to go for the week. Now we will have red face training, and we'll talk a little bit more about what it means for red face, but that's kind of some military time that'll happen during the first 6 weeks there at 6 o'clock. And on Tuesdays, you'll have your ROTC or Citizen Leader Track lab. Now you'll have classes as regular classes during those 10 hours, but you will always have a lab from 3:30 to 4:45 on Tuesdays for your track, which is either one of the 3 ROTCs or the Citizen Leader Track. On Thursdays, everyone comes together, and that's when the Corps has lab, and that's also 3:30 to 4:45. On Thursdays, this is when we do parades, this is when we bring in speakers, anything we need the entire regiment for, we're going to do during that time frame. Our award ceremonies, for example, that all happens during Corps lab. Now on Fridays, during the first 6 weeks, you might have Pride Nights. This is where the companies get together to do something to build pride in the company. It can be a lot of things. It could be physical fitness. It could be a leadership challenge. One night it might be where we ask you to learn about all the 7 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients that have been awarded the Medal of Honor here at Virginia Tech. Now, as a freshman, if you heard me say that, all you heard was she wants me to memorize more stuff, blah, 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 right? So to make it more fun, we reenact how each of them earned their congressional medal. For example, Jimmy Monteith stormed the beach at Normandy and took out a gun turret, right? So we put the freshmen at the bottom of the hill out here in front of Pearson Hall. Not a big deal. If you saw this hill, it's not a big deal. And all the freshmen look around and go, oh, come on, this is too easy. Like, what's going on here? And then they notice, wait a minute, no juniors, no seniors, something's up, right? And all of a sudden the upper class come out and they've got Nerf balls, right? And they start lobbing them down. You get tagged by a Nerf ball, you're down, your bud class has to come back, pick you up and carry you to the top of the hill. By the way, you can pitch them back at the upper class. It's a lot of fun, but we're just gonna have you build that camaraderie and get to know one another during those Pride Nights, and that's how your company will build that camaraderie. And then you have PASS. PASS means you can go anywhere you want within 50 miles of campus. Lots of cool stuff to do around here. However, during the first 6 weeks, what we'll do is we'll give you Unity Pass. We say, all right, you and your 29 buds have PASS, but you got to pick one thing and you all have to go do it together. Now, it's a lot of fun watching the companies kind of figure this out, right? Because you figure, you know, wannabe leaders are kind of type A, a lot of them are type A personalities. You put them all in a room and nobody can agree on what to do, right? I watched one company, it took them 3 weeks to figure this out. Finally, the 4th week, they went to Walmart. So eventually they got it figured out. But you're going to have, once you get the hang on this, then you'll start to have personal passing. You can go do what you want to do within 50 miles of campus. Now, we also have 2 leaves per semester for first-year cadets. So if you kind of look at this, you figure in August, you were home in August before you got to us. So you had some time off in August. In, let's see, September, now I'm not quite sure what this is going to mean going forward, but if we do host a football game, we do attend all the home football games. So we usually only have one weekend where we don't have a football game scheduled. This is Southwest Virginia. We have the Appalachian Trail here. We have beautiful mountains in the fall. It's a gorgeous weekend. A lot of times ROTCs need that weekend to get out and do their outdoor training. So, and the Citizen Leader Track typically does a service project. So you may not get a weekend off to go outside 50 miles during September. However, you do receive unlimited family pass, which means, let's say your family comes in for a football game. After the football game, you can leave and stay overnight with them. And then you'd be due back to us at 6 o'clock Sunday night for study hours. So, and so you can have family pass within 50 miles of campus. So that's September. October, you get a fall break, which is a Friday off. If you're smart, use one of your leaves there. You get a 3-day weekend, so you could probably get home, depending on how far away you live, or you can go with one of your buds. And then November, you get 9 days off for Thanksgiving. And December, we usually finish up classes the 2nd or 3rd week in December. So even during the most restrictive time frame here, you could still get home almost every month, September being the one month where it may not happen. And then Saturdays, if you look at it, you can see those home football games with pass. And then Sunday is your day until 6 o'clock Sunday night when we get started again with those study hours. So that kind of gives you an idea of what a week in the life of a cadet looks like. Oops, sorry, went the wrong direction. All right, so but time management, I think, is absolutely at the heart of learning how to be a cadet. You know, sometimes cadets are like, wow, I want to spend all my time on academics. And I would ask, and I wonder if there's any students really in high school that spend all their time just on academics. Usually you have so many other activities going on. One of the things that we want you to learn here is learning how to manage so many different things. That is going to be an important part of your life. You know, we never just have one thing that we get to focus on, right? We have our personal life, we have our work life, right? There alone is something you have to balance. So we're going to start teaching you that from the get-go. And yes, it is going to be harder, but we are going to protect that study hours that you have. We are going to help you, teach you strategies to help do better in your academics. And we're going to be there to help you make academics work for you. But we're also going to expect more of you, right? We're going to expect more that you're able to learn how to be a cadet and start learning about leadership. And so that's an important part of the program as well. However, I would tell you that the core averaged a 3.27 last year. So we did a little bit better than that 2.92 of the university. And one thing I found really telling is we had a company of sophomores who averaged a 3.5 GPA. Whole company. And the university average was for sophomores only moves up to a 3.0. If you take on board the lessons we're trying to teach about time management and learning how to set priorities, you're going to find you get back on track a lot faster. So one major difference of being here compared to an ROTC only or civilian university is we're going to give you a lot more academic transition between high school and college. Now, I usually like to ask how many of you are sharing a room, and I would guess that it's about 99% of you are not sharing a room when you're at home and before you get to college. So what do we do on a college campus? We bring civilian students, for example, we bring them to campus, we take away all the rules, and we room them with someone they didn't grow up with, and we say, all right, folks, good luck. I hope that works out for you. And we walk away, right? And students always underestimate how much energy's got to go into this roommate experience. Everything's up for debate, whether the lights are on or off, whether the trash is going out, right? All these things. I'll give you my example in college. I was from Alaska, my roommate was from Hawaii. They said, hey, let's put them together, right? And she was a design major, and so she did all this group work. So we had 5, 6 people in the room, lights on, TV on, music blaring. She always said they didn't get creative until about 2 a.m. Meanwhile, I'm in ROTC, I gotta get up at 5 a.m. for PT. I'm here to tell you, it is very hard to be academically successful if you're homeless. You know, if you're avoiding your room, because you can't figure this stuff out, it makes it very hard to focus on what's really important. So I talk to the cadets here and I go, all right, well, what's your roommate experience like here in the Corps? And they say, ma'am, it doesn't feel like I have one roommate. I feel like I've got 29 roommates. Now, you may be wondering, wait a minute, 29 roommates? How's that better, right? But the difference is here in the core, we're going to take some things out of the room that cause conflict between roommates. You know, we're going to take TV out for a while. We're going to take music out for a while. It's not that you can't listen to music. You can. You just do it off upper quad. It's not that you can't watch TV. You can. You just do it in the TV lounges. But we're going to take it out of the room for a while. And we're going to give you and your roommate about 6 weeks to learn how to communicate first before we start adding in all these things that cause conflict. So the conversation isn't if the trash should go out, right? And who knows how long that conversation could last. It turns into, is it your turn or is it my turn? Because the core says it has to be out by 8. It's just a very different starting point. You and your roommate are going to be on the same team instead of head to head. And we're going to give you some time to learn that those are all important communication skills before we start adding this stuff back in. By the way, that almighty music privilege starts coming back around the 6-week point. So it's not forever, but it's just a chance to get back on track. And so another major difference of being here compared to an ROTC only program is we're going to give you a very different roommate experience. And last but not least, it's about leadership. You know, if you look at the 3 ROTCs here, we have 3 of the largest, and of course, like I said, in my opinion, 3 of the best ROTCs in the nation. Come seek out those exact same leadership opportunities you can find at any ROTC program in the nation, right here in our ROTC programs. But in addition, we have the Corps of Cadets. We were over 1,100 cadets strong last fall. What does that mean? That means we have over 100 leadership positions every semester, and we're the only senior military college that turns these over every semester. So more cadets get this opportunity to practice leadership at that 30-person or higher level. Now, why do we set the bar there? Because that's what a brand new second lieutenant or ensign should expect. And think about that in the civilian world. Where would we take a brand new 21, 22-year-old straight out of college, put him in charge of 30 people, some of whom have been with that organization for 20 years? We just don't do it, but we do it all the time in the military. So we think it's something you want to practice before you get out there and do it for real. So imagine in the Corps, for example, our company commanders lead 90 people. Our battalion commanders lead 330. Our regimental commander, Cadet Wolf, is responsible for over 1,100 cadets. So imagine you were a company commander leading at least 90 people, right? Fairly easy to do around here. Your peer from an ROTC only program had maybe one opportunity to practice leading 30, who's probably going to hit the ground running a little bit faster. That's what the Corps brings to the table. So we can give you a lot more academic transition, a very different roommate experience, and a lot more leadership opportunities that I think you can find at these civilian or ROTC only programs. Now, flip side of it, the all military all the time schools, they get this, right? They're going to do these same kinds of things. But what I see on that end is this. Freshman year, it's all about transitioning from high school to college. Sophomore year, whoa, my grades. I got to get my grades back, right? They're very academics focused. Juniors, though, are coming back to campus. They're starting to feel pretty confident about academics and leadership. And they go, wait a minute, college is almost over. I don't want to miss out on my college experience. You know, you pop your head up, look around, all military all the time school. It's still all military all the time. You know, you do that here at Virginia Tech. We have Virginia Tech. We have over 720 different student organizations you can belong to. You want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane? We've got a skydiving club. You want to, you know, who knew we have a world-class Quidditch team, right? And I challenge you to find an all-military, all-the-time school with 44% female students. You're just going to get a lot more balance in that college education. But the truth is, you can earn a commission from any of these sources. So what I think it really comes down to is, what do you want your leadership opportunities to look like? And what do you want that college experience to look like? And we want you to know there's this option right here in the middle, and that's a Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets. And our tagline is, we want to offer you the best of both worlds. And like I said, it's not best of both worlds day one. The first 2 years, we're going to be a little closer to that all military, all the time school. Last 2 years, we're a little closer to that ROTC only or civilian university. But over the balance of 4 years, you could take advantage of everything this university has to offer. So that's where we fit, right in the middle. Okay. So let me do a quick peek and see if there are some questions. Okay. Does anybody have any questions right now before we move on? If you use pass on Saturday, do you have to spend the night in cadet housing, or you can stay somewhere else? Pass means that you come back to the residence halls. Leave means that you can stay overnight. So upper class do have opportunities later in the process where they can stay overnight out in Blacksburg. But initially, pass expires at 11 o'clock and you do sleep on campus. Are there internship possibilities during the summer, or will the summers be mostly occupied? Internship opportunities we think are outstanding for our citizen leader tracks, and we definitely encourage them to do that, because your internship tends to be your primary means of getting an offer. And you know, the last time we saw an economic slowdown, it really helped when students had maybe a private sector internship that they had as well as a federal one. So when the federal government started cutting back on funds, the private sector offer was still there. So we do encourage internships for all of our citizen leader tracks. There are summer trainings, and I'm gonna let ROTCs talk a little bit more about those. Is there a boot camp before freshman year? Yes, and that is a great feed into what we're going to talk about next. D1 sports. So if you do want to play Division I sports here at Virginia Tech, the policy is that if you if you are selected to be on a D1 team, then you can participate from day one. Because D1 sports have their very own study hour system that's pretty robust. So they're going to take good care of you in terms of academics. Now, if you're playing club and it's the highest level offered at Virginia Tech, you're also allowed to do that from day one. Otherwise, we're going to ask all students to kind of take a semester, get their feet under them, earn a 2.5 or better. And if you do that, then you can add one extracurricular activity from the core. Or ROTC program extracurriculars for the spring semester. Sophomore year, you can start to add as many as you want. If you want to go to sleep before study hours, can you? Yes, you just have to request early lights, and as long as that's approved, then you can. Can you room off campus in your junior or senior year? No, unless you are married. So if married students are allowed to live with their spouses off campus. However, in general, you are required to live on campus all 4 years as a cadet. Okay. Do you have to wear your uniform at Saturday's football game? Absolutely. We're part of the show, right? We don't pay for tickets. We're part of the show, and part of the show means we wear our uniforms and we put that presence out there. This is a great way, in my opinion, for recruiting for the Corps. It looks great. It feels good to be a part of a group like that. Absolutely, we wear our uniforms on Saturdays. Can you participate in Tech's school marching band? So here's a trick, right? No one's figured it out yet. The marching Virginians sit on one end of the football field and we sit on the other. So as far as I know, you have to pick. We would prefer that you were in the Highty-Tighties, obviously, because you're part of the Corps. It's your company in the Corps. It's who you live with in the Corps as Highty-Tighties. So sincerely hope that you would choose to be with the Highty-Tighties. Are students allowed to have cars? Yes, Virginia Tech's policy is that cadets can have cars. And you are a student at Virginia Tech. There's no additional restriction for cadets. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm going to borrow your joke. The general always likes to joke that, you know, the place where you can park these cars in the cage is about 814 miles from Upper Quad. Might as well be as often as you're going to have the time to go do that during the first 6 weeks. So I'm really going to recommend to you that you leave your car at home until Thanksgiving break, when you'll have a better idea of how things work around here, and you'll know whether or not you need that car. Now, there are some obvious exceptions to this rule, which would be if you were in the National Guard and you needed to travel to your National Guard weekend training. Obviously, that might be a different scenario than the average one. But I know why you ask, right? Your car is your independence in high school. I would put forward to you that your independence in college is being away at school, right? You're in college, so that's your independence. You really don't need a car to have independence. The Blacksburg transit system, one of the reasons we do Unity Pass, for example, is that it gives you an opportunity to learn, you know, you and your 30 buds. Nobody has a 30 passenger van. Don't bring one just because I said that, okay? But you're learning how to use the bus system. And the bus system goes to some really great places around the university, and we want you to learn how to do that. Do you wear a uniform on weekends? Sometimes, yes. As a new cadet, figure you're going to wear a uniform 24/7 for the first 6 weeks of the program. Okay. All right, so now let's head back, and I'm going to hit, somebody had asked us, okay, so somebody had asked me, let's see, a really great question, and so we're going to go back to that one. So let's talk about life on campus and what our system looks like, our phases of training. So we have 3 phases of training in the Corps. And new cadet week. So we start off with new cadet 1 week before school starts. Ooh, I apologize. This should say August 15th. Oops. So we start off with new cadet week 1 week before school starts. So this year, hopefully, that will be August 15th, Saturday, August 15th. So stand by as we figure this stuff out and we figure out what's going on. So don't hold me to August 15th, but if it were a normal year, it would start August 15th, and we will be in touch if there are any changes to this. But it starts 1 week before school starts, and this is everything you think in terms of boot camp, right? Gentlemen, this is the haircuts. Ladies, you just have to wear your hair up. It's learning how to wear the uniform and learning how to march, learning how to march, and learning how to march. There's a lot of marching in New Cadet Week because we're getting ready for a parade on that following Saturday. So, you know, your family drops you off, you got your hair, you're wearing some new clothes, you're like, go, 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 I got this, right? They don't hear from you for a week. Now they can see you. The Commandant's site has a ton of pictures. You'll be able to, you know, we call it playing Where's Waldo. You'll be able to pick out your cadet, but for the most part, there's no communication during that week. So the next time they really see you, you've got your haircut, you're wearing your uniform, and you're marching with your buds down on the drill field. It's a pretty amazing moment. Now, towards the end of the week, we have some fun stuff. We have a 20-foot and 40-foot rappel tower. We also have a newly updated obstacle course. We'll try to get some videos up so you can see a little bit more what that looks like. There's some videos that will play during the breaks that you might see the obstacle course there. But you can't miss one of the obstacles. It's called the big one, right? So we get a little adrenaline flowing, have a little bit of fun. That Friday, we have a field day. Now, as a naval officer, when I hear field day, I'm like, ooh, we're gonna clean, right? No, it's a more like an Army field day. This is getting out and having a competition. We do all kinds of different things during this time frame, and it culminates in a big, huge tug of war, right, between the freshmen and the cadre, and it's a lot of fun, and everybody really gets into it. And then that following Saturday, we have that new cadet parade. And then, so you get to stay overnight with your families, get some sleep, tell some good stories until you're due back to us at 6 o'clock Sunday night for that very first study hours. Now, while you were gone, the rest of the regiment moved in. So there are cadre, some juniors and a couple seniors who are coming back to train you during New Cadet Week. The rest of the regiment will move in while you guys are out on pass during that time frame. And so when you come back, you're gonna notice there's a lot more people around. So the Corps likes to call it GTD, right? And the general's super into getting things done, right? The time management process, and he will talk to you about that. But the Corps also calls GTD a general tightening down, right? So this is just reminding all of the students as they return to campus about what the rules are around here and get everybody back up to speed for the school year. And then Monday morning, school starts. And now we're still continuing military training that we didn't complete, that we weren't able to fit into New Cadet Week. But now classes have started. So now you're making that transition of being a high school student. We call this red phase because this is a huge learning curve. And you're really learning a lot. But by the time we get to about the 6-week point, you really have learned a lot. You know, you figure, they always tell you 2 weeks to establish a new habit. Well, 6 weeks here because it's a whole bunch of new habits all tied together, right? But around 6 weeks, you're gonna start to get the hang of it. And I do hope you hang out for this because when you first get here, it is gonna be hard, right? And it is gonna be challenging. And there are going to be days where you're wondering, what in the world am I doing here? But if you can press through that and you can say, you know what, I'm learning, I'm gonna get it better tomorrow, right? Get that support person identified ahead of time, right? When I was going to school, my mom said, don't call me, you know, because my answer will be suck it up, cupcake, right? And my dad said, you know what, you call me, we'll talk until you need to. He goes, but the next day, after we hang up, you're gonna promise me that you're gonna get back to it and you're gonna fix it and you're gonna do better the next day. So make sure you've got someone who can help you out and hold you up on those days when you just don't want to go forward. Make sure they're there for you to help you get forward, right? So there are going to be days during red phase where you're really going to struggle, but that's okay. That's part of the learning process. And I promise there is a light at the end of the tunnel because when we finish red phase, you have to really commemorate how much learning you've done over that time frame. We're going to do the first of the Caldwell marches. So William Madison Caldwell was the very first student to be here at Virginia Tech. And he and his brother left their homestead in Craig County and walked 26 miles to be the first students here. And so we break this up into two 13-mile hikes. We start off with at the Caldwell homestead, fall along the Appalachian Trail, and end up at a park named after the Caldwell brothers. Then we bring the freshmen back up here, and that's usually where they earn their first privileges. It's a huge moment, right? And then we shift into the next phase of training, white phase. And white phase, things kind of level out, just like the color, it's leveling out. You really kind of, we don't back off on the requirements that we have for first year cadets, but you're starting to figure this place out. So things kind of level out. We really want you focused on midterms and finals, but it's also time to start focusing on the next thing for the Corps, which is learning how to be a fire team leader. A fire team leader is a sophomore position that mentors 2 to 3 freshmen. So we're going to bring you back, and you'll start cadet leader school at this point. And that'll go until about middle of February. Now, middle of February around here, Blacksburg lives up to her nickname, Bleaksburg. Everybody gets a little bit of cabin fever going on. So we host our military ball down in the Squires Student Center in the Commonwealth Ballroom. We get dressed up in a uniform I didn't mention before, which is called Palatot. You'd probably recognize it as Navy choker whites. And we host the ball, and everybody has a really good time and blows off some steam. Then we come back up here and we enter blue phase. Blue phase is the last portion of the school year. Really want you to focus on midterms and finals, but you're also going to have an opportunity to interview for your fire team leader position. And if you earn one, you start shadowing the person you're going to replace in the fall. But it's not over yet, right? We go on the second half of the Caldwell, usually around the second week of April. We start off at that park where we left off in the fall, straight up over Brush Mountain and march back onto campus. It's a big day around here. Everybody turns out honking and cheering as the Corps comes back up to Upper Quad. We fire off Skipper. One year we had a little daycare come out and notify the Corps as we went by, right? And then the upper class come out in their dress uniforms and form a circle around the freshmen. And we do something called the turn ceremony. Freshmen do an about face, and they get to greet their upper class by first name for the very first time in the year. It's a huge marker in the freshman experience. But again, it's not over yet. The big moment is the change of command ceremony. So this is where we're going to host our parade out on the drill field like we normally do. But this time we're going to ask the seniors to step out of the formation and join us in the reviewing party. So they get to turn around and look back at that formation they were a part of for 4 years. And then the juniors step up into the senior leadership positions, the sophomores into the junior positions. Big time for families to come back and see that accomplishment. And the freshmen move up into the sophomore position. Now, this is the hat throwing ceremony, like, woohoo, we did it, right? But one thing I've always noticed about the seniors, they're a little nostalgic, like, wow, I can't believe my 4 years are already over. You look back at the freshmen, though, they're like coming out of their skins. They're so excited to be sophomores. So that kind of gives you the rhythm of the freshman year. So I did see a couple questions out there about how to apply. Virginia Tech participates in the coalition application. So after choosing Virginia Tech, and you finish the essay. So this is really key. Our question is after the essay. So if you left because you wanted to work more on your essays, you're not going to have seen the core question. But I promise, once you submit your essay questions, the next page asks you if you wish to be a cadet. Do you wish to enroll in the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets? Yes, no, or send me more information. If you choose no, of course it means no. If you choose yes, it means that you will get to apply for free. So you're going to skip the pay page. So you can apply for free as a cadet. You're going to automatically be considered for the Emerging Leader Scholarship, which for an out-of-state student is $12,000 total. For an in-state student, $8,000 total. Starts off at $1,000 or $2,000 your first year, goes up $1,000 your second year, stays there your junior year, and then senior year it's either $3,000 in-state or $4,000 out-of-state. So it ladders up over the 4 years that you're here. By the way, the Emerging Leader Scholarship Board was held and all those offers have been made. So congratulations to anyone out there who received one. If you didn't, you know, it's kind of a guessing game. We put out as many as we think are going to come, but if we find fewer people are coming than we offer the scholarship to, we will host another board and spend the money until we get there. So it's not completely over yet. So you get to apply for free. You're automatically considered for Emerging Leader Scholarship, and you get additional consideration. So what does that mean? Admissions defines it on their website, but basically you should think of it this way. If there were 3 students to apply from your high school, which may or may not be the truth, but let's say there were 3. One was going to be admitted, one was going to be denied. The one in the middle could go either way. That by definition is the wait list. So a regular student who falls in that gray area will be waitlisted. A cadet who falls in that gray area, additional consideration says they will be admitted. Now, it's not that cadets don't get waitlisted, they do, it's just a little further down in the pile. So you do receive additional consideration as a cadet. So you get to apply for free, you're automatically considered for the Emerging Leader Scholarship, and you receive additional consideration. Now, if you choose send me more information, you don't get the waiver, and depending on when you do change your status to cadet will depend on whether or not you're considered for the Emerging Leader Scholarship. So if you change to cadet before we host the board, then we will consider you. If not, you will miss out on that opportunity unless we have another board. And if to change your status, you would then we're going to send you a letter. You can send that form back. You can, there's also directions to email admissions directly to change your status to cadet. But like I said, you miss out on a couple of the things. So how do you develop a leader, right? And I think this is a good question, right? A lot of feedback I usually get is, you know, have them practice leadership. That's great, right? And we obviously believe that that's an important part of learning how to be a leader, is learning how to practice. We also have you hear from leaders who are out there doing it, and they're going to come back and give you their advice. We're going to study historical leaders. We're going to study, we have a global project where you can, once things are not COVID-19 anymore, you can take a class in the spring semester and about World War I or World War II, become a subject matter expert on one of those areas, and then you travel to those locations and you get to brief on actually live on location to your peers about what you've learned about that particular part of the battle. So really great opportunities, right? So getting out there and learning from historical leaders and historical battles of how leadership works, all great ways to do it. But I would argue that the way we teach leadership is our honor code. That a cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, nor tolerate those who do. Now, these are not hard words, right? I learned them, you know, we probably learned them in kindergarten, but I don't know as if it really sunk into me what these really mean until a couple years ago. So let's say you and a friend are hanging out, okay? And your friend says, hey, let's go do this. Now, we're gonna assume this is safe and legal, okay? They're not asking you to do anything wrong. What is it that makes you feel like, okay, I can give up autonomy and follow my friend and do this, right? And I'll flip it around a way. I bet there's a friend you can think of who says, hey, let's go do this. And even though it's safe and legal, you're like, no way, you are gonna get me in trouble somehow, right? What is the difference in those two relationships? And I would say it's trust, right? And leadership scholars looked at this and I said, okay, if trust is what it takes one friend to give up autonomy and follow another friend, then maybe trust is also what it takes a group to follow a leader, right? And so they've done a lot of studies, and it does seem that trust is one of the elemental building blocks of what it means to be a leader, right? So if we're going to be a 24/7 leader development program, then our job is to teach you to be trustworthy. Well, what makes someone trustworthy? And I love the Civil Air Patrol. They have a great definition for this because I think it's integrity, right? And their definition of integrity is doing what's right, even though no one is watching, right? And I definitely think that you know, if someone is doing what's right, even though no one's watching, they definitely have integrity. But I would also argue there's a second half to it, doing what's right, even though everyone is watching you. And this is a lot harder. You know, we read those essays that you put in on your applications, and I hear way too much about middle school bullying on there, right? You know, there's all kinds of situations where if there's not a teacher around, you know, it's Lord of the Flies, right? I refuse to believe that nobody knew what Bernie Madoff was up to, right? But they didn't say anything because of that peer pressure, right? So having integrity, I think, also means being able to stand up to your peers. So here's how we do it here, right? We're going to bring you in for New Cadet Week. We're going to have, you know, gentlemen are going to cut their hair, ladies are going to wear their hair up, everyone's going to be wearing the same clothes, right? And we're going to take away all the forms of power, and we're going to put you together with 29 peers, right? And when during this time frame, I always hear the sounds of the show Survivor, right? Because basically what's happened, you've just been dropped off on might as well be deserted island with 29 strangers, and you've got to figure out who you trust. And so not only are you learning how to trust your peers, but most importantly during New Cadet Week, you're learning how to trust your cadre, and your cadre are earning your trust. Now, this isn't, you know, soft and cozy care, right? But they are caring for you, and they're going to earn your trust by caring for you, by making sure that you're getting up on time. that you're dressed properly, that you have water, that you have restroom breaks, that you're getting food, right? That you're getting trained properly. They're going to show you that kind of care. And as they show you that care, you're going to learn to trust them, right? And so they're building your trust. And then the school year starts, and now we're learning how to trust our peers around us. And that's why we're doing those pride nights and all these company activities that are building that tremendous sense of camaraderie. But I'll tell you what, I had a cadet sit in my class and in my office with his little brother one time. And he said, you know, ma'am, because this happened to me, because about 6 weeks in, one of his peers broke the honor code. And he was worried. He was like, wow, you know, these are my only 29 friends I have in college so far. If I turn them in, and if I have an obligation to call them out, right, then they may ostracize me. Well, so he thought about it for a long time, because that's a pretty high social price to think you're going to have to pay. He goes, but he did it because he said the honor code said I had to. And he goes, you know what really surprised me is my buds didn't ostracize me, but they held my bud accountable for having broken the honor code. Now, if everyone is willing to live to that standard, how much trust can you have around you? And that's what we're going to, and this is, you know, it sounds esoteric, but I'm here to tell you that this is going to happen way more often than you think. And so we're going to work on this for an entire year while you learn how to build that trust and integrity. And we believe if you consistently show you have integrity, that you have honor, right, during your freshman year. And then sophomore year, we're going to bring you back. And now you have a sophomore position where you're responsible for 2 to 3 freshmen. So the question is, why will the freshmen follow you as a sophomore? And I would argue it's because you have expertise, right? You've been there, done that. So you use your expertise to help your freshmen succeed, because that's kind of the first form of power that exists. And then junior year, we bring you back, and now you might be a platoon commander. So now we believe in a leader-mentor model, that you mentor those that you lead. So we're still building on trust, integrity, honor, expertise, but now you also have authority, and you're learning how to use that authority to help your followers excel. And then senior year, we bring you back, and now you might be a company commander. So now you might be responsible for 90 people. Well, you can't be a leader mentor to 90 people all by yourself. So now you have some people working for you, maybe your best bud from freshman year. But I'm here to tell you, they are a different person. And so when you hand off some tasks to them, they may go about it in a very different way than you anticipated. So you know what always comes up senior year? Micromanagement. So students, you know, you say the word and people grit their teeth. And I've always wondered what that's all about. And here's my thought. If you're putting your trust in a leader, and then that leader's turning around and micromanaging you, they're showing you they don't trust you, right? In this imbalance of trust, it makes us angry. So what we've got to learn to do is, how do we lead and hold people accountable without micromanaging? But if you've done these 4 steps, when you step off after graduation, you're going to be ready for what's next. So this is how we teach leadership here in the Corps. Okay, so we have come to the turnover point. Thank you very much for listening. Next up, if you have the email, you can go ahead and link to the ROTC of your choice, either Army, Naval, or Air Force, or if you're interested, there's a Citizen Leader Track recording. It's about 10 minutes long. Feel free, Citizen Leader Tracks, to come back, and I can answer some of your questions that you might have about Citizen Leader Track when you rejoin us. Everyone else, when you come back, please log back in, and this meeting will still be open, and you'll be able to join, and we will get started with that room tour, cadet panel, and deputy commandant. Thank you very much for coming, and have a great time.
is comprised of the cadets and the Corps cadets who will not be commissioning upon graduation and instead have chosen to either come and explore their options at Virginia Tech or possibly looking into going into federal intel, law enforcement, med school, tracks like that. Welcome to our info session. So here's our vision. Highly sought citizen leaders with character, confidence, wellness to lead successful lives and service to others. What does that mean? We want to take the theoretical knowledge that you'll be gaining in the classroom and marry it to some practical skills that we can give you here, like communicating, writing resumes, project management, to make you better candidates after graduation. We want to make you better at whatever you want to be good at. So in the Corps, you're going to live in one of these companies. But on Tuesdays, in the afternoons after for lab, you'll realign by your ROTC, or in your case, Citizen Leader track. This is how we're divided. V company is our engineers and our science majors. P company is all other majors. And I company is comprised of seniors getting ready to graduate. Here are the three parts to our program. Fitness. I'm not trying to make you a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to make you an Ironman champion. What I am trying to do is get you to understand how to be physically fit and how to take care of that by yourself. By the time you're an upperclassman, it's possible that you can attend PT as much as 4 times a week and as little as 1 time a week. What that depends on is how much effort you're going to put into it. If you show up to the PT test and do really well on it, you'll only come once a week. If you're struggling and not able to take care of it by yourself, we'll provide you that additional instruction. This is also our opportunity for our cadets to practice their leadership and character development. So that's when they get to reach down and help out, make you better. Career coaching. For career coaching, I get some help from our cadets on this. You'll have upperclassmen cadets who you ask questions about. How do I get a job at Boeing? How did you get that internship with the FBI? Then there's what I do. I talk to you about your opportunities and which groups have reached out to us. Mentor to cadet, we'll connect you with some of our alumni who are in possibly companies that you want to work for to make sure that you know how to get to whatever job you want to apply to after graduation. Employer outreach. This is my job. I will attend every job fair to make sure employers know about the Corps cadets, what qualities you all bring, and to understand what they want so I can make sure that the right opportunities end in the right inboxes. Here's our lab. Tuesday afternoons from 3:30 to 4:45. For you freshmen, will be Management 1935. This counts towards leadership minor and increases in content over the years. Focus areas: self-understanding, online presence, nutrition, financial planning, project management, career search fundamentals, public speaking, etiquette, professional issues, and college to career transition. Again, we are seeking to try to make you better candidates for the real world by giving you this knowledge. So this is what our job fairs look like. Pretty packed. The good news is that they're held right across the street, so it's not a far walk. Here's the even better news. 90% of our graduates had jobs or grad school offers before they graduated in 2019. And 82% in 2018, and 80% in 2017. Here are some of the places that our graduates have gone after graduation. So as you can see, it runs the gamut from medical schools, to local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, the military through OCS, the FBI, the CIA, Disney, businesses. If you want to do it, we very likely have an alum that works there. And that's one of the great strengths of our program, is that now that we have alums going out there and doing such great things, we're going to harness their ability to reach back and help out and make sure that you have a leg up in the hiring process. So here's an average day. If it's a PT day, most cadets are waking up around 4:30, 4:45, shave, put on your uniform, get to PT by about 5:10, 5:15. PT's over by 6:15. By the time you walk back to the dorms by 6:25, 6:30, it's time to shower and clean yourself up. At around 7 o'clock, you'll be expected to be out in the hallway, to be inspected, to answer trivia, to basically be checked over by your upperclassmen. And at that point, we have formation, and then we leave you alone for the rest of the day. Academics really are our number one priority. So between 7:45 and 4:45, that is your time for classwork, homework, naps, anything you want to do. From 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is core time. Athletics, training, company meal, whatever. After which, from 7 to 11 p.m. is study hours. Study hours means that the dorms are completely quiet. And even though we don't enforce them upon our upperclassmen cadets, most cadets still observe that time as their prime time to study. Now here's a couple examples of cadets that have graduated from our program. So here we have Christine Mapilli, class of 2016, civil engineering major. So when we talk about broadening you all out, when we talk about making sure that you all are successful, there's just going to be some things that I can't teach you, like civil engineering. So we encouraged her to do some undergraduate research. She ended up being on the Flint, Michigan Water Survey team, and ended up staying here to earn an MS in civil engineering in 2018. Michael Shoka. Michael Shoka was the class of 2017, math major with a 3.9 GPA and 300 PT score. Looks great on paper. In addition to performing academically well, he also earned 2 federal law enforcement internships and ended up working for Prince William County as a police officer. Peter Wilson, also from the class of 2017, finance major, did well academically. We encouraged him to find investing organizations across campus to give him that applied experience. So he joined BASIS, the Bond and Securities Investing by Students. Along with some excellent development in the core, with his good grades, with his out-of-classroom experiences, he now works for Morgan Stanley. Jake McCormick. Now, Jake was an interesting case because he left Navy ROTC after not earning a scholarship, came to us, still bought into the program, still wanted to commission, ended up earning a Navy OCS slot after they saw what the program had done, and he is now stationed aboard the USS Cole. Brandon Ward, class 2018. Brandon did just about everything you could in the Corps. Company commander, cadre, EMT staff, volunteered with Blacksburg Rescue, great GPA, great PT score. Married all that up with some excellent off of campus experiences, and all of a sudden you have a guy who's now going to VCU for med school on an Air Force scholarship. So they're paying for everything, and they really liked his participation in the Corps Cadets. Mairead Novak, also another interesting case. So Mairead Novak actually arrived in our program in April of her senior year. She was supposed to commission, ended up being medically disqualified, but she had a good GPA. She had been doing study abroad, majoring in Russian, and so she was an excellent candidate to work in the intelligence community. We connected her with the right resources, and she ended up getting employed at the National Ground Intel Center. Warren Braxton. Now, Warren Braxton was never my strongest, fastest, or smartest kid, but what he was bought into the Corps. A building construction major, 3.1 GPA. He actually lost 140 pounds while he was here. After earning 3 internships, he now works in Richmond for a building construction company. So that concludes the presentation. If there's something that I haven't answered and you have questions, please feel free to reach me at jtoberoi@vt.edu, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I look forward to having you in the program next year. Now back to Colonel Merriger.
So let me repeat that again. Does a varsity sport get in the way of a cadet schedule? So, you know, this might be, does a cadet schedule get in the way of varsity sports, or either way? I mean, I think there's a lot going on there. So basically, what happens is, so tell me what sport you're interested in. That would be really helpful information to have. And two, we get the coach, your deputy commandant, and your ROTC instructor, and we put you into, okay, great, cheerleading. So we get you into a room, we get the three of them into a room, we give them your schedule, your academic schedule, and then they slice and dice it and figure out when you're going to be where. The only thing I would put out there is that there's no one in that room advocating for your free time. So know that they are going to slice and dice that, and in your first year, your first semester, that's a tough fit, but it can be done, and it will be done. And we would put, like I said, the coach, the ROTC instructor, and your deputy commandant in that room, and they would figure it out. And then you would just need to execute that plan. But like I said, you know, be ready to realize that you may not have a lot of downtime, especially the first semester. But once you get past the first semester, you are going to find that you have a little bit more downtime, depending on what, I'm not quite sure how cheerleading works. Unfortunately, that's new for me. So not sure if it's just football, if it's basketball, how those seasons work, but you will find that you have more time starting in the spring semester. Here's a question that we have, is what is the recommended fitness level before New Cadet Week? Well, I'll tell you, if you're looking at ROTC, I really recommend checking out their physical fitness standards, and making sure that you can perform at the excellent or above level in that physical fitness test. If you're doing citizen leader track, we use the Naval ROTC physical readiness test. So you can look up Navy PRT, and that'll give you the standard. Usually it's a 1.5 mile run, 2 minute sit-ups, 2 minutes of push-ups. So as long, and I think you have to touch your toes, but they'll tell you what you need to score on that based on your gender and your age, and need to be scoring an excellent or above on that. And I would aim higher on that. If you're running at least 2 miles a day, you're doing 2 minutes of push-ups, 2 minute sit-ups, maybe twice a day, you're going to be in pretty good shape once you get here. The other thing that I would really say that really matters during New Cadet Week, we're not doing a physical fitness test saying if you don't hit this mark, you're not participating in the Corps, right? We're saying that's going to be your benchmark, and then we want to see you improve from there. One of the things that we see students doing sometimes is they're not getting enough water. If you show up to us dehydrated, right? If you know, we've gotten into the habit of drinking coffee every day. One, there's not going to be any coffee during New Cadet Week, and two, we're getting into the habit of maybe we just haven't paid a lot of attention to drinking water, and now we're in this new environment, and maybe we missed it. We're not drinking when we should. If you get dehydrated, it's very hard to do well on your physical fitness test. So do come to us hydrated. We're going to do everything we can during New Cadet Week to just sustain that level of hydration, but we really can't increase your hydration during New Cadet Week. So come to us hydrated so that you're just in better shape all the way through. So that's an important part of that first physical test, is being hydrated. And then just make sure that you're doing your physical fitness every day. You know, if you put a lot of stress on yourself about this, and you see it as this big thing, it starts to be this stressor, and we tend not to do something about it. if you can break that down and you say, okay, today I'm going to run a mile and I'm going to do 2 minutes of push-ups and 2 minutes sit-ups, and tomorrow I'm going to run a mile and 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 2 minutes, and then next week I'm going to move it up to a mile and a quarter, and then a mile and a half, and then a mile and 3/4, and then a mile, 2 miles. You know, if you build this up as just a, did I do it today or not? Then it's, did I do it today? Well, if I didn't, then all right, fine. Tomorrow I'll get it. I'll do it better and I'll fix it, right? But that way you don't get way off track. Don't let this be a big, huge stress. Just do it every day, and you're going to find you're going to be in pretty good shape. So one of the questions I see in the Q&A is, do you have a boot camp or a RAP program? Well, we don't have a RAP program because we refer to our new cadets as new cadets, not RATs. Do we have a boot camp? We have New Cadet Week. That's that 1 week before school starts. That is very much like boot camp in terms of what we're trying to teach you, right? We're trying to teach you to wear a uniform. We're trying to teach you to learn how to march and learn how to do the manual of arms and getting ready for that parade. So it's going to be very much like a boot camp, but it's 1 week before school starts. Boot camp itself, if you're talking about Army boot camp, typically cadets do not attend boot camp. You're in the ROTC program learning how to become an officer. Your training is happening over the school year, so you don't have to take a summer and get it done. There are going to be some cadets in those programs that do need to go to summer training to catch up what they've missed. But for the most part, you're doing your training while you're in the program, and it's over the semester. All right. Okay, so let's see, how often, let me do this. How often do we have to wear our uniforms? So as a new cadet, you're going to wear your uniform pretty much 24/7. You're gonna wear your uniform, you know, you're gonna wear some form of uniform pretty much all the time. Even in the evenings during study hours, you're gonna have a physical fitness training uniform to wear for physical fitness training. And then you're gonna have the uniform of the day that you wear when you're going to classes. So, and then some cadets sleep in their physical fitness training uniform so that they can get 5 more minutes of sleep or whatever. So, not required, obviously, but some people do it. So, you know, you're going to be wearing that uniform from morning to bedtime for the first 6 weeks at least. And at that point, you'll start to earn the rights to maybe the first set of grades come in, and maybe we're getting that done. So now we can start to earn the privilege of wearing civilian clothes during study hours. Late spring, your company will kind of figure things out, and then you'll start to get the right to have those personal passes instead of Unity Pass. And then maybe late spring, you might earn the right to wear civilian clothes on the weekends. But all are privileges, and they can be pulled back if things aren't getting done and people aren't paying attention to grades, to room cleanliness, that kind of thing. Okay. And then starting as an upper class, by the way, as an upper class, you would typically wear your uniform from 7 to 5, just like an officer would. So from getting up in the morning, you put your uniform on after physical fitness training, and you would wear that uniform until 5 p.m. Are there any plans for a cadet corps pipes and drum band? Yes, that is in process. It's already in progress, actually. So I would say that is a great question to ask at the Highty-Tighty panel. I will defer to them on this one. How does the ranking work in the Corps of Cadets? So we kind of talked about the basics, right? We have the New Cadet Week. We have New Cadets, which is your first year in the Corps. And then you have a sophomores, juniors, seniors, those are the kind of the big levels. The actual ranks, I would say ask the cadets. They'd be happy to answer that for you. You can find it in our guide-on. Our guide-on is actually online in our under resources on our website. So if you go to vtcc.bt.edu and you look under the little 3 lines in the menu, you'll find resources. Click on resources and you'll find a guide-on listed either 2nd or 3rd on the publication. So you can see all of the ranking and the uniforms and everything in there that we're basically going to ask you to memorize this book. So it's a good place to start, and you can see the chain of command, Let's see. Oh, here's the ranks. So there's the Corps of Cadets rank structure. It's on page 36 of the guide-on, so you can check it out there. We're Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, NOAA, Citizen Leader Track. We've got a little bit of everybody running around here. So you're also going to be asked to memorize all of the Armed Forces rank structures as well. So check it out, the guide-on, it's up online. That's the one for this year. The one for the class of 24 will come online a little bit later in the summer. Anybody else have any other questions while we're kind of waiting for everyone else to come back? Well, great, we have a question. Let's see, if I've already received a 2-year degree from a local community college as part of a high school specialty center before joining the Corps, will that create any conflicts? Will the credits transfer? So wish I could answer the question on the credits transferring, but most often, yes, you can, you will be able to transfer your credits, especially from a Virginia community college. The system has been built to tie those course numbers to Virginia Tech one. So if you go into the transfer guide on Virginia Tech's website, and let me share that with you real quick. Let's see, we'll go to, sorry, let me get the guide on down here, and we'll try, if we come into the main page for Virginia Tech, and you go to admissions, undergraduate admissions, you should see, let's see, well, it used to be we had it right here. They changed it, great. Oh, here it is, transfer applications right here in the center of the screen. If you click on that, you're going to see the application checklist, the transfer guide. This is where you want to go. So here you would choose, if you went to a Virginia community college, you would choose VCCS course equivalents. If you went to another four-year college, you would choose the transfer equivalency database. If you went to Richard Bland, you would choose this one. And if you just want to see what APIB credit looks like, you can use this for your IB as well. So for example, if you are coming from a Virginia community college, you come in here, you don't have to choose the school because it's already chosen. And then you can just put in your course number, or for example, math is a big one that people want to transfer. So here, for example, it'll show you what the 154 gives you VT 115, 1115, for example. If you need 1014 for engineering, it would be 162. So you can see on here what those calculus courses look like, for example. And I really recommend that as a transfer, what you do is you download your check sheet for your major. So if you go into vt.edu and we have this search bar, and in the search bar you put in check sheets. Plural sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. There we go. And you can see here, you can see the check sheets. You pick your college. I'm going to go with engineering for fun. So let's say we wanted to be a mechanical class of 23 is the latest one they have posted. This shows you that check sheet. And then what you do is you go back to the transfer guide and you plug it in and you figure out what course number it would be at Virginia Tech, and then check it off on this check sheet. And that's going to give you a better idea of, did you complete everything for the first year? Most likely that this is what transfer counselors are doing over at admissions, is being admitted as a transfer student is really, did you finish the credits that you needed for your first year? So that's what I would recommend you do. Okay, let's see. The next question I see on here is, when do you have to choose between ROTC and the citizen leader track? So I will tell you from the get-go, what I really think you should be doing is, if you're thinking about ROTC, do ROTC first. They have classes that are required to commission. So it's a little bit harder if you come in and do citizen leader track first, because then you would have, and you decide to transfer into Air Force, you would have to go back and catch up the classes you missed. Now, Air Force does it pretty well. Their class is 1 credit, their lab's 1 credit, and their PT is 1 credit. So you take the lab and PT, and then you take 2 classes, the freshman class and sophomore class, for that fall or spring semester to get caught back up. But it doesn't mean you have to add more credits to your schedule. And if you are a engineer, for example, that can be pretty tough. So I recommend start ROTC. That's what those first classes are all about, is teaching you what it means to be in Air Force, what the career paths look like. I mean, it's just a class to teach you. You don't have to pick from a commercial that you saw on TV, right? Like, take a class in it. Let's figure out what it really means to be an Air Force officer. And then if you decide, you know, this really isn't for me, or maybe we're not medically qualified, or whatever it is, you can then transfer to citizen leader track. We have a module that'll catch you back up, but it doesn't leave you behind. You don't have to take extra credits. So I usually recommend doing it that direction. In terms of picking for fall, you know, we usually do something during New Cadet Week to help you transfer into a particular ROTC. So if you have not chosen, which is the way you join ROTC, is you sign up for their class during new student orientation. When you're doing, however, we're going to do this with orientation, when you meet with your academic advisor and you're picking classes, pick the ROTC you're interested in or the citizen leader track. That's actually how you first join. So that would be what I recommend for choosing ROTC. If you could do it beforehand, that's great, because there's lots of paperwork, you know, and if you could do it before you pick classes, that would be great, because then your schedule doesn't get messed with. But we will actually have another opportunity for you to change right at the beginning of New Cadet Week, which is 1 week before school starts. Tough time to make the choice, because it can mess up your schedule. If you thought your schedule was all very pretty the way you like it, and then we want to change our ROTCs, we may have to move some classes around to make it all work. So I recommend before you talk to your academic advisor and you pick that ROTC, that's the best time to have made that decision. Okay, so here's another question. Due to this current COVID-19 outbreak, would it possibly affect the new cadet week or this fall semester in general? So ironic, I was listening to President Sands, the president of the university. He was doing a town hall right before we got started today. And his messaging was pretty clear. He basically said, we won't know until June. So in Virginia, Governor Northam has set the stay-at-home order to go until June 10th. So June 10th, I believe, will be the next kind of line in the sand where they're going to start making some decisions. And I think they're waiting to see what's going on with this thing as to, is it going to be safe or not? And so I don't think anyone really knows yet. And so I think they're just holding on until then to make a decision. So we do know that the decision has been made about summer. All summer activities are going to be offered online or canceled, and summer orientation will be online. Cool things to do that way. That allows us to do some other stuff that we maybe can't do when we've got to move that many people around on a campus. So kind of excited to see what they do come up with. You guys will be the first class that have ever done it here at Virginia Tech, but do know that other schools do this online all the time, and we're going to learn from them as we make this happen. So you're right, as a cadet, this is going to lead to some challenges, but we're figuring them out, and we will have more information as we do figure those out. So know that you guys are top of our list to figure it. Once we know how we're going to do this, you're the first people we're going to tell. So please know that. All right, let's see, some questions. Fun question. You mentioned in the first session about a required course about World War I or II, but could you go into more detail about traveling to the sites of battles? Like, would we travel to France, for example, and what would that entail? The actual details of traveling to France, I don't know. Like I said, this was pre-COVID-19, so obviously things are off for this summer, so they're not doing the trip this summer because the university has come out and said all travel is stopped through this, and all events will either be virtual or canceled. So those got canceled. So I think we're really talking next year at the earliest. And obviously that'll depend a lot, I think, on what's going on with COVID-19 and if there's a vaccine. So, you know, to get more detail about that, let's see, hold on, let me share my screen here. And let's go back to the core page. And the menu. And let's see. I'm trying to remember where we have it stashed. Let's see. I think it's in here. History of the Florida. I will find it. Hold on. Give me a second. Global Scholars Program. So here we are. It's under academics on the core site. So if we come into the core site, which is here in a second, it's vtcc.bt.edu. You go to, you click on academics and you click on Global Scholars Program. That's going to give you more information about that program. Oh, here we go. It finally loaded. So here you can see the cadets in the restored trench system on the Maginot, probably the Maginot line, and you can see a description about the program. So if you want to get a quick, short touch on that, that would be where you can go and get some more information. If you were interested and decided to choose ROTC, and would you have to be commissioned and deployed? So there's no commitment for ROTC for the first 2 years. So if you're not on a scholarship, so you don't earn a national ROTC scholarship or an on-campus ROTC scholarship, there's no commitment for the first 2 years. But when we get to the first day of junior year, that's usually when you sign your commitment. Once you've signed your commitment, you're going to sign for 8 years, depends on service. Navy's 5 years on active duty for a 4-year scholarship. Air Force and Army are 4 years on active duty for a scholarship, 4 years in the Guard Reserves or Individual Ready Reserves. So that's when you sign the dotted line, and that's your contract, your commitment. And that'll happen usually the first day of your junior year if you're not on scholarship. If you're on scholarship with a 4-year, it'll happen when you get here, but there's a 1-year kind of check it out clause that says if you change your mind during the first year, you walk away, they paid, nobody pays any money back, nobody does any enlisted time. Now, if you decide after you signed your contract, you will start to receive book money and stipend money if you're not on scholarship once you've signed your contract. If you decide, if you are trying to break your contract, 1, you have to request permission to do that, and 2, you would pay back any money that they gave you, or you would do enlisted time. So it really depends. But you don't make that decision until first day of your junior year if you're not on scholarship. So there's lots of time to figure this stuff out. Most cadets figure this stuff out within the first semester or 2. So I think you'll find that you're around a lot of other people who are making the same kinds of decisions, and you're going to figure out whether it's a fit for you. I know that being prescribed medications such as for ADHD disqualifies someone from military service as long as they're on the medication, and that they need a waiver to join. Are there similar medical requirements for the Citizen Leader Track? No. If you can be a student at Virginia Tech, you can be in the Citizen Leader Track and in the Corps. So we do not have those kinds of requirements. When applying to Virginia Tech in September and you indicate an interest in the Corps of Cadets, then as your senior year goes along, you decide against joining the Corps. Would this impact your acceptance to Virginia Tech? Potentially, because like we talked about, if you saw the slides, you receive additional consideration as a cadet. So if you decide later, if they give you additional consideration because you were going to be in the Corps and we have these mandatory study hours and our cadets outperform the average freshman class, right? Then they want to make sure they're still setting you up for success. So they would re-review your application for admission. And if you were given additional consideration, you'll be offered an opportunity to go to the wait list or stay in the Corps for a minimum of 7 weeks. So yes, there are some ways that it can impact your Virginia Tech application and acceptance. Let's see here. It looks like we're getting some great questions. All right, so if you choose an ROTC program, are you guaranteed to be put into that ROTC at Virginia in the Corps, even if you're not appointed a scholarship? Absolutely, you can join ROTC by signing up for their class. That's all it takes. You don't have to have a scholarship. Anyone can join ROTC. It's signing up for the class. So sign up for the class and you will be in that ROTC, whether it's Army, Naval, Marine Option, or Air Force. Okay. How many years for Marine Corps? I believe they follow the Navy, which is 5 out of 8 on active duty for a 4-year scholarship. It may reduce to 4 at that commitment point. So that would definitely be a great question for Navy or the Marine Options. Are we able to choose our roommates? No, but this is a good thing. Trust me on this, right? If you choose a roommate, you both come in with expectations. And nothing causes 2 people not to get along if we are not living up to each other's expectations, right? So we're going to completely randomly assign roommates for first year. Now later, once you've been in the Corps a little while and we've kind of gotten the hang of how to do this roommate thing, you are allowed to put in requests for roommates when you start to become an upper class. But as a freshman, we think it's really important that everyone come in kind of even and that you have an opportunity to learn how to get along and learn how to communicate. And having additional expectations established before you ever get here can only get in the way. So we find it works a lot better. People tend to work a lot harder at getting along if you are randomly assigned. And so that's how we do it. And I have to tell you, it's played out over many years and it does seem to work. Are the students in the Corps who don't have a national ROTC scholarship expected to pay the same tuition price as regular? Yes, yes. Everyone pays tuition and fees. How that gets paid, you know, for some students it comes from mom and dad at a 529. Some students we got an ROTC scholarship that pays a portion of it. But there is tuition and fees, and there really is no discount on tuition for being in the Corps. If you choose the Citizen Leader Track, do you still take the naval science classes under your curriculum? No, we use and I see where that came from. The Naval ROTC physical fitness test just happens to be a structure that we use for the PT test, but you take Citizen Leader Track classes, and hopefully you got a chance to see Mr. Oberoy's presentation. If not, I did record it and it'll be part of this Zoom presentation when we put this out there. How much free time will freshmen have on an average day? It depends a lot on how well you're managing your time. You know, I think there's time to go eat lunch with your high school friends that maybe are attending Virginia Tech. I definitely think that's an option. Hanging out with them in the evenings, not going to happen because of mandatory study hours. So it depends a lot on what you're doing with your time and how you're managing it, and also kind of how prepared you came to us academically. So that'll play out a lot. But, you know, you've got time to work out. Students, you know, obviously we live up to a physical fitness standard here. Cadets work out a lot. I don't know if you could hear it while we were on the session, but one of the PT Fit is right outside my door. Lots of students, not lots, let's socially distanced. There's a couple of students out there working out. You know, they work out a lot. They work out as a group sometimes. So I think you're going to find you have enough free time for that kind of stuff. In the Corps of Cadets, do they do daily room inspections, and are there separate dorms from regular college kids at Virginia Tech? Yes, we live in Pearson and New Cadet Hall. These are two Corps only residence halls. It's all Corps in those two halls. We have approximately 1,100 cadets here, and they do live together all 4 years that they're here. So right now there are no civilian students in our residence halls. I seriously, as the recruiting officer, hope to continue to make that true as we go along. If you did not get a national ROTC scholarship, it's still possible to be appointed a 4-year scholarship at the beginning of the year. Depends on ROTC, depends on money, depends on how people, we have no idea. COVID-19 has totally changed the rules. I have seen Army every once in a while have a scholarship that they can roll over that someone else turned down, and they can roll over to a local student on campus. Most of the time, I think those get rolled back to the national pool, and the national pool will decide who gets those scholarships. So I wouldn't bet on it as a common thing. I think it's more of an exception. Do you think there'll be further opportunities to spend the night with a cadet in the fall? Absolutely, I hope so. If we find this COVID-19 thing is starting to be under control and we're allowed to invite people to campus, we will definitely do that. Otherwise, we'll probably do more of this thing where we do a virtual session. And you can give us some input on what you want to see that maybe you feel like you're missing in the virtual section, and we will continue to work on that. We are heading into 2:30 now, so that means that we have, we're getting ready for our cadet panel. So let me, let's see here. We've got 2 more questions. I'm going to call it there, and then we'll pull up the panel. Okay. Do you think there'll be, oh, sorry. If you're in citizen leadership track, do you have to wear a uniform every day? Yes. Just like all cadets wear Corps uniforms for the fall semester. Spring semester, we do start breaking out into ROTCs, Army, Naval, Air Force, Citizen Leader Track. And you would wear your specific uniform each day for that. So Citizen Leader Track might be in what we call hokey bag, which is a maroon polo with khaki trousers, or they might be in business attire. It really depends on how that goes. So, and last question we'll take here before we open, I back out and let the panelists handle this. Can they socialize with friends on the weekend, not in the Corps? I am going to turn that one over to you guys. So how about this? If you can ask your, if you can raise your hand, I will unmute you and you can ask questions that way. And I'm going to turn it over to the panel. So, all right, let's start with the panel. Why don't you guys, Mr. Blecher, why don't you start off and introduce yourself?
All right, hello everyone. My name is Cadet Jake Blecher. I'm the Regimental Recruiting Officer for the Corps Cadets. I come from Leesburg, Virginia. I'm a Navy ROTC physics major, and I'm going to be going submarines after I graduate.
Ms. Mansala, do you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Cadet Mansala. I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. I'm a math major, currently a junior, and I'm in the Air Force ROTC.
Hey, Mr. McDonald.
Hello, I am Connor McDonald. I am from Yorktown, Virginia, and my major is biochemistry, and I'm a Navy ROTC.
Mr. Sato?
Hi all, I'm Satoshi Sato. I'm from Gaithersburg, Maryland. I am a mechanical engineering major and I'm in the Air Force track.
Miss Luz, I hope I'm saying your name right.
Hi, I'm Cadet Los. I'm from Virginia Beach. I'm material science engineering and I'm an Army ROTC.
Who did I miss?
I think we got everyone, ma'am.
So what questions do the students, what questions do you have for the cadet panel? These are great folks to ask questions about cadet life in particular. So how about we try this with the Q&A? So if you see on the black panel at the bottom where you can see your mute and your start video, why don't we ask questions? If you click on the Q&A, ask questions there, and hopefully we can share those and they can answer them from there. Mr. Bleiter, do you want to take that first question on the Q&A?
You're talking about the ROTC one?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you choose an RTC program, you can actually, like, I think it was mentioned before, but you can switch out of it later. Are you guaranteed to put into the RTC and the VCCs? Essentially, so what you do is during orientation, which will happen over the summer, I don't know how they're going to be handling it with COVID-19 and all that, but usually what you do, you fill out some preliminary paperwork, and one of those pieces of paperwork is what branch of service do you want to go into, and it's easy as just circling it. So then you also sign up for those, like the classes are associated with it, and that's the ROTC that you start out with. But you don't necessarily have to stay with that ROTC if you don't have a scholarship with it. So I know people who started out Navy, but they weren't able to pick up a scholarship, so maybe they switch over to VPI or switch over to Army. Pretty much until you get a scholarship, you can switch between the branches, but whatever you sign up for at the beginning, yeah, that's what you'll be starting out with.
So it asks everyone, can you socialize with friends in the weekend that are not in the Corps?
Yes, definitely. So over the weekend, pretty much you have all the free time that you want over the weekends, unless it's over the fall where we have football games. You can pretty much use your time as whenever or however you want to. So meet up with friends, go on hikes and stuff like that.
So to follow up on that, they also ask, what do you like to do with your free time?
As an upperclassman, we have more freedom to go on like adventures, I guess, around Blacksburg. So I hang out with my friends often, especially friends outside the Corps, because I found that that's the best way to kind of distract yourself with like the vigorous and like all the things that we have to do in terms of like training and stuff. So I think in terms of free time, I just definitely hang out with my friends and go on hikes and grab food with them.
Okay, so anybody want to answer this one? What was your first week like as a freshman, and what is something you wish you would have known before going in?
So my first week as a freshman was an interesting time. Like, I remember we were just sitting in the dorms. They told us to get it into MCUs or mods, and that's it. And then you'll if you go to a new cadet week, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But you get a kind of a surprise introduction of freshman cadet life. And in the beginning, I was really, really shocked as to how like I wasn't really used to it. But after a couple days, you kind of get used to it, and you're like, okay, I'm starting to get the hang of it. Thinking back to it, I didn't think it was as bad, but during that time, I was like, oh, this sucks. But it's not as bad after you finish. You're like, oh, okay, that was actually kind of fun, and you actually learned to enjoy it.
Great. Here's a question. During freshman year, are there any student mentors that I can reach out to for help with the engineering curriculum?
I would say definitely yes. Definitely look to like your upperclassmen, because a ton of them are engineers in the Corps, and like they're 100% willing to help you. Even if they're your cadre, like they've taken the same classes that you have, so like they can definitely help you with that. And also the general engineering program, because that's how all the freshmen enter in, is they start in general engineering. A lot of your fellow classmates will be taking the same classes as you, as well as your buds who are like the other freshmen in your TC. Like everyone, you can like support each other in that aspect, if that makes sense.
It's also just a good idea to go visit your professors during their office hours to see what kind of insight they can give, or if they can point you towards a TA, teacher's assistant, who's usually just like a junior, senior, like a graduate student who's pretty good in the course that can help you out as well.
So along that time management idea, here's a question. What is the policy on technology usage while in the Corps during your first semester, i.e. cell phones, computers, listening to music, etc.?
That doesn't happen.
As a freshman, you're definitely limited as to what you can use on your phone. Like you can obviously use it to call your family and friends, but you're not allowed to use social media. So no Instagram, no Snapchat, no Netflix.
And what was that like?
It was definitely a challenge, kind of, because coming into the Corps, I had no idea what I was getting into. So kind of having that taken away from the get-go was a shock. But you have a lot of things that you do that distracts you anyways, like school and getting to know your buds and going on UPass on weekends. So not really a lot of time to be watching Netflix.
Okay, great. Here's one. So again, along this time thing, would you have any freedoms to go to the gym during the week while being a freshman?
I'd say yes, plenty. Between classes, you are welcome to go to the gym, change into PT gear, and just head on to one of the two gyms that are on campus. So if you are managing your time effectively on any given day, you should probably have 5 hours between morning formation and ECQ where you can do whatever really you want to, as long as it's like on campus and safe. And yeah, so you can go to the gym, eat, hang out with friends, talk to friends, but yeah, you'll have plenty of time to go to the gym and other activities.
So here's a question. What is your, open to all of you, what is your favorite part of the VTCC?
3 football games.
Do you guys all agree?
I would say my buds, ma'am. My freshman buds, I ratted G21, and to this day, we're still very close. So having those relationships that you know will carry over even after college was pretty amazing, in my opinion.
Anybody else want to add in?
Yeah, just going off of that too, it's really nice with the bud class because you have a group of friends early on, because there are some people who come down to Virginia Tech from a place that it's like has a large Virginia Tech student body. Like for example, Nova, we send a bunch of people every year, the whole Virginia Beach area. But then you get those like oddities, like you got a guy from Texas or Ohio. I think we had one guy from Alaska one year, who might not know a lot of people. So pretty much it gives you a set of people who you get to know early on. So you always have people to rely on. And it gives you a good social base.
Here's a question for all of you. Are you roomed with other cadets in the same ROTC as you, or could there be an NROTC cadet roomed with an Army cadet? And tell us what you think about that.
So you are not going to be, most likely not going to be in a person with the same ROTC as you. So if you're Navy, you can have an Army or a Marine roommate or an Air Force roommate. And it works out well because you guys can kind of compare experiences and see what kind of lines up and compare differences. And maybe you'll have some aspects of that ROTC you'll like more than your own, and you might want to change because you're like, wow, I far like this a lot more. And so you can room with any ROTC, really.
Yeah, I've always had at least one Air Force roommate every single year. So
here's a question that has to do with rooms. Are the residence halls similar to the Service Academy residence halls, or are they more like civilian rooms? For example, are we in charge of bedding, et cetera? Are we expected to bring nothing?
So the rooms aren't 100% similar. However, the civilian dorms do have lofted beds. So we have lofted beds, and civilian dorms also have lofted beds. Some of them may have desks, some of them may not. So for the most part, they're basically the same. However, you don't need to bring a blanket. All you really need to bring is the, I forgot what they're called, the underliner and the sheets, and that's pretty much it, and your pillow. Everything else will be supplied by the Corps. And if you're worried about the differences, it's like the cadet resident halls, but what you'll notice is that they look very different because our rooms look as like, if you see like a cadet Lowe's room, it's pretty much just the loft and the desk, and that's pretty much it. Residence halls will also have a lot more decorations, but based on certain regulations and inspection standards, our rooms are a bit more austere, I guess you could describe it or say.
Okay. So one person asked, you said at least one roommate. How many people are there in a room, or is it just pairs? I will tell you that 73% of the Corps is set up for triple rooms. So the majority of our rooms are triples, and then we do have doubles, and we even have some quad rooms. I'll let the cadets talk about triple versus double and what they think.
My freshman year, I was roomed with 2 other cadets, and this year I was roomed with just another one. So I would say that the biggest difference would be kind of like the shared space that we have. So being in a triple room, we kind of have to be more conservative with the stuff that we bring in. So we can't really bring in like extra furniture because of the space, the limited space that we do have. But being in a double room, we were able to bring in a TV, a shoe rack, and stuff like that. So I would say the biggest difference would be the space that you have to work with.
So on that, somebody asked if they could bring their guitar. What's your advice? What do you guys recommend on bringing guitar for, the first semester?
You can bring instruments, just know like you're not gonna have a lot of time to practice, especially like you can play it in your room as long as you're like not loud. Like we had a few freshmen who brought their guitars, and like as long as you're not disturbing your study time, like you're fine to bring your instruments.
So another question is fridges, and we know how the refrigerators and microwaves, if someone wants to talk about what that process was like as a first-year student.
So pretty much like before you even start a new cadet week, you'll know who your roommates are. Like VT Housing will send out a message saying here's your 1 or 2 roommates. I would suggest getting in touch with them beforehand and just try to organize who's going to bring the fridge. Make sure it's like a mini fridge, because no way are you going to fit like a regular size fridge in there. And who's bringing the microwave. and try to bring only like one of each, because that's all you really need. That's all you have the space or room for. But yeah, you can honestly put anything in the fridge that's not alcohol.
Okay. So here's a question. Are we allowed to bring griddles or other cookware devices with us? Anybody want to talk about the kitchens?
In the cadet dorms, we do have a stock kitchen, so we have like pans and pots, and we have like pancake makers and stuff like that. However, there is a document released by Virginia Tech where it outlines appliances that you can't bring into your dorm because of fire hazards. So I would just look into that and make sure that you're not bringing anything into the dorms that might be dangerous for you or your roommates. But we do have a fully stocked kitchen, so.
So this question's been popping up a couple times here, which is, so I'm going to go, if someone could do this, how did you decide if you were looking at another senior military college and you were trying to decide between there and Virginia Tech? Tell us how you made that decision.
So initially, go. No, you go.
Okay. A lot of it has to do with like what your major is, in my perspective. So like I would look at like if you want to do engineering, I would recommend going to like Virginia Tech or possibly Texas A&M, because they're both engineering schools. And also with some senior military colleges like VMI, I know VMI is strictly like a military college, so there isn't a civilian population there. And that's really what lured me to tech, was the civilian population, because I'm not 100% surrounded by people who are wanting to go into the military, and having the civilian population here kind of like gives you more opportunities to do things outside of the Corps, which in my opinion it's nice to have a break from like wearing a uniform all day, and you get to like see your civilian friends. So
Just kind of going off of that too, it's also just nice to like experience college for what it is, and not just as a military school experience, but just joining clubs, interacting, going around like Blacksburg and Christiansburg, and just trying to experience college.
So there's been a lot of questions about what to bring. And so I will say that there is a packing list that we will put out during, the summer. So we're kind of, COVID-19 has put us back a little bit on this as we try to figure this all out, but we will put out a packing list, and you should bring what is on the packing list and only what's on the packing list. That would be my recommendation. But I'm going to turn it over to the cadets. Is there anything that you really felt like you wish you'd brought that was not on the packing list?
I would say just bring a lot of masking tape, loads of masking tape. You're going to need it freshman year.
if you're Army, bring duct tape. You're gonna need it for like your gear and whatnot.
Kind of wish I brought a coffee maker, but not for New Cadet Week, because you can't have caffeine during New Cadet Week at all. So
Bring a working printer.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
where that printer has ink.
Here's another one. Can you tell us? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I'm a recent graduate of Virginia Tech. I graduated in December, but I had one more thing to add: like a shoe caddy. I know I just throw my shoes in the closet and it gets dirty. So if you have the shoe caddy, you can hang from your closet, and I find that very helpful.
Adding to that, for Army guys, if I were you, I'll bring a shoe dryer. because your boots may or may not get wet. They will get wet, excuse me. So especially if you're in the Army. I'm in Air Force, but all my Army buds and friends all pretty much need shoe dryers, because if it gets wet and you have a muddy and nasty shoes the next day, you're just going to hate yourself. So definitely a shoe dryer.
Okay, so we're closing in on the last 5 minutes or so. So any more questions or anything you guys want to say that you feel like you would like to tell a prospective student, a prospective cadet, to make sure they're thinking about that before they get here?
Freshman year is going to be challenging, but I suggest to just make the most of it. You're going to hear this a lot while you're at Virginia Tech. It's going to be the most fun you'll never want to have again. You're going to have a lot of firsts, like your first college football game, your first UPass, your first bad UPass. So just make the most of it and enjoy it while you're still with your buds. It's all an experience. So.
I'd say you get out of it what you put into it. So I'd say like really just try to apply yourself as much as you can and just like see what works for you and just keep on trying. And also like don't feel bad if you aren't doing great immediately. Like no one feels good if they're doing badly immediately. And we saw some of our best buds actually become like some of the top cadets in my freshman class. So just I would say just apply yourself as much as you can and keep with it. Just really keep on going. So
during new cadet week in red phase, when your cadre are doing like training sessions with you and they're getting like loud and in your face, just remember that it's not personal. They're there to train you and develop you, so that you're ready for white phase and having a fire team leader and future upperclassmen life, as when you're the one in charge of your own freshmen or your own squad or even your own company maybe.
So here's a fun question. How long are cadets allowed to grow their hair? Maybe one female, one male on this one?
So for females, you can grow it as long as you can, as long as you can put it up in a ponytail and the bun doesn't exceed 2 to 3 inches, I believe, is what's on the regs. But if you're in hooky bag, like this uniform, you can have it in a ponytail. But in any other uniform, it has to be up in a bun.
Females can also have short hair, so I have short hair, as long as the bottom of your hair doesn't touch the collar of your uniform. In addition, with like, I know some female cadets have bobs, like your hair can't touch your collar of your uniform either.
Okay, so let me ask this question. So let's go the hard one. What has been the hardest part about the Corps, and from freshman year on until now? What has been the hardest parts? And let's, if everybody could take a turn, that'd be great. Mr. Bleacher, you want to lead us off?
Thinking about mine.
I would say the time management is probably the hardest part. You will have a lot of things going on, because you'll have your ROTC thing, you like have PT, you'll have core events, ROTC events, and then you still have to do all your classes. And time management was really hard, especially freshman year, because you're transitioning from high school and the college schedule is definitely very new to everyone. So balancing your classes and really understanding like what you need to prioritize when is definitely a skill that you need to learn quickly, because everything just goes very fast your freshman year. But yeah, I would definitely say time management was probably the hardest thing.
I would say,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'd say personally, academics were really challenging for me, balancing those with the time you're given, and I, I just really struggled with that academically for a while. But once you kind of get on top of it, can you can get better and learn how you work and learn how college works, but it's a bit of a learning curve. So.
For me, in terms of the core and leadership, I would say peer leadership. As a sophomore, I was a fire team leader and I was in charge of a senior. So just imagine being your second year in the Corps and you're in charge of someone who has more experience than you. So that was a little difficult for me, finding like the balance of when I can be assertive and when I should be a little more laid back in terms of being in charge of the senior. And this year I was a squad leader, so I was in charge of more people with more experience than I was. And I think for me was just definitely kind of learning that what works for the freshman isn't necessarily going to work for another sophomore or a junior or even a senior. So like Cadet McDonald said, it's all a learning curve. So kind of just finding what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
I actually got two things. One, going off what Cadet Mansella just said, is when it comes to being in charge of people who are like of the same age or older than you and have more experience, is when it comes to disciplining them, because sometimes, especially towards the end of their senior year, they'll start to slack off and be like, oh, I'm about to get out of here in commission. I just don't care anymore. Is trying to keep them in line and keep them motivated to push out to that final stretch. Just part of the challenge of leadership. Also, sometimes you just have to accept in the Corps that you're not going to always get what you want, what you intended. Like especially later down the line when more positions become available to you. Sometimes you think you worked really hard. You tried your best, put in every effort you could, and you still fall short of the mark. Pretty much the hardest part is accepting that you didn't get what you wanted and to move on and understand why you didn't get it and try to better and develop yourself in that way.
Okay, so one last question. What was the best part of the Corps all the way through? How about we do it in this order? How about Mr. Bleicher, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Sato, Ms. Lowe's, and then Ms. Manisala, sorry.
I think one of the best parts for me was the turning day back in my freshman year, because it just felt like a huge weight just came off your shoulders. You really felt like you accomplished something great with all your buds that freshman year when you finally get the opportunity to talk to all the upperclassmen in your company by first name, and you really feel like you accomplished something.
I would say getting to know the people for me. I'm still friends with my entire bud class and like my entire company. I'm friends with all the sophomores and a lot of the juniors and seniors, and really like a lot of the people have similar experiences as you, and a lot of same background and interests, and you'll find a lot of people who are quite similar and you'll make really good friends. So that's probably my favorite part of the Corps.
So definitely the people. In the Corps I've met some really great people. I have two mentors in the group. In the Corps I have a person named Julissa and a person named Calvin. And these people have just treated me not treated me per se, but like they have helped me a lot, especially during times I've struggled in the Corps. They just have been great people. My friends here, I met some great friends here, and I love to go hang out with them and get advice from them and such and such and such. The people here are honestly really fantastic. So yeah, that's what I really enjoy most, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say the people as well. It's definitely I personally, like my bud class, we were very close, and like we still are, even though we don't live together anymore in the same TC. And it's like even the upperclassmen, like so many of them like inspire me to do my best. Like it's really crazy, like the kinds of people that you can meet in this organization, and a lot of like what college and like the military is like networking, and like this is an amazing place to network with people that may not even be in the same branch that you are, but like it's an amazing organization that like lets you meet like so many great people.
So going off what everyone's already mentioned, it's the people, but for me, there's one specific person that kind of like stands out, and it's my mentor. So finding out that I got who I wanted was pretty amazing for me, and to this day we're still pretty close. And he's also Air Force, so he's helping me get through kind of like the similar process of my pick job, because we got like similar jobs in the Air Force. So having someone to look up to and having like that leader role model that you can kind of like try to embody has been pretty amazing for me. But also kind of like going off embodying like a good leader, like having someone to look up to and being looked up to by like the freshmen and the sophomores, and having like people that you can mentor has been rewarding for me, especially for like Air Force positions and like Corps positions. So knowing that I made an impact even like a little bit in their experience here in the Corps has been pretty amazing. So
Okay, one last chance. Any last words of wisdom that you want to share before we turn over to Captain McGrath?
I would say definitely just try to do some workouts now, get in shape so you're ready for New Cadet Week, because they will introduce you to PT there, but especially depending on what branch you want to go. I know if you want to go Marine Corps, they have an entrance PT exam, and if you can't meet that standard, then better find a new career path.
I would say make mistakes now. Like now's the time to kind of try new things and new leadership styles to see what best fits you. So it's okay if you make mistakes here than being already in the force and making mistakes then.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being here today, and it's great to see you. I haven't seen Hokey Bag in ages. It's nice to see you guys. I'm glad you're all doing well, and thank you so much for coming out today to help us spend the night. So I don't know if you can hear everybody else, but we're all clapping for you. So thank you very much. All right, have a great day.
Thank you.
You too, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so 1 second here. I did not do the room view, so I'm going to share my screen with you and share a video that I did where you can see kind of see a couple of the rooms. All right. Hold on. Okay, great. So one of my first tries at doing the video. So I'm sorry it was so jerky, but really glad we got to share at least what a room looks like with you. Next up, we have our Deputy Commandant brief. And so I'd like to introduce Captain McGrath. He is our Deputy Commandant who's going to talk to you today. So Captain McGrath, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Merger. First of all, I'm not quite sure I want to be following the cadet group because I'm going to say a lot of the same things that they said, but hopefully that'll just reinforce some of the important things. So I am, first of all, welcome to Virginia Tech Corps Cadets' first ever virtual stay the night. Obviously dealing with the interesting times that we're all living in. I'm, as Lieutenant Colonel Merger mentioned, I'm Captain Jamie McGrath, United States Navy retired, and I am also a Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets class of 1990 alum. And it's as an alum that I can speak from personal experience about the advantages of graduation from the Corps of Cadets and what they gave me as I embarked on my career as a nuclear trained surface warfare officer. And it's because of these experiences and my belief in the strength of this program that I returned here to serve this generation of cadets upon my retirement. I think Virginia Tech Corps Cadets provides a unique balance of military and civilian environments unmatched at any other institution of higher learning. And this is one of the things that I think you all heard from the cadet panel that just finished. At the service academies and the other senior military colleges, cadets are immersed in the military lifestyle day in and day out. And in traditional ROTC units, cadets interact with their military responsibilities 1 to 2 days a week and are civilian students the rest of the time. But here at Virginia Tech, our cadets experience the military-civilian relationship daily, just as they will upon commissioning. Our cadets live in a military-style barracks and willingly submit to military-style rules and regulations while attending classes, eating, meeting, and interacting daily with civilian students, professors, and staff members. It's in this environment that our cadets grow to understand the importance of balance between military obligations that they were about to undertake and their responsibilities as citizens in the communities they will reside. Understanding and living that balance is a huge advantage as they transition from college to being military junior officers or even junior executives in industry. Today's military is a joint military, and also, as was mentioned in the cadet panel, the services are working together, and here at the Corps of Cadets, we are also joint. Although our cadets are enrolled in individual ROTC programs or in the VPI civilian leader track, the Corps of Cadets itself is joint. We live together, we work together as a regiment, intermixed between the services. My roommate, when I was here all 4 years, was an Air Force cadet, and that relationship, that ability to work with those other services gave me a great advantage in my early years as an officer, understanding what the other services bring to the fight. It is our goal in the Corps of Cadets to develop global ethical leaders, now more than ever. This means that when you graduate from the Corps after 4 years, you will have been exposed to good leaders, and some bad leaders, and have had opportunities to lead yourself. That exposure and those opportunities to lead begin on day one. Now, it may not seem like it when you're here as a new cadet, when you're being told what to do, but the importance of learning good followership and in being able to lead yourself during your freshman year is the first step in that leadership growth process. As a sophomore, you'll be given opportunities to enhance your followership and also lead small groups, as was mentioned in the cadet panel, fire teams of maybe 4 other cadets. Juniors provide the backbone of the Corps leadership and training, and they work directly with the freshmen during their first year, teaching them the basics and advanced elements of being a cadet. And then finally, as seniors, you will have opportunities to set the culture of the organization as you prepare for commissioning or your civilian career. And I think the Virginia Tech Corps Cadets, which is the university's first living learning community, is a 4-year leadership lab where cadets experience leadership instead of merely studying it. Now, I know the question in everybody's mind is how will COVID-19 impact being a cadet? The short answer is that we don't know, especially in the near term. We await the status of social distancing regulations over the next several months as anxiously as everybody else. What I will tell you is how the Corps reacted to this crisis. We were able to quickly transition to a virtual organization with cadet chain of command remaining intact and in command. That chain of command was able to rapidly reach out to all the cadets to ensure their well-being and communicate changes to university as they occurred. Our academic officers continue to interact with cadets, providing information about available online courses and connecting cadets to tutors within the regiment to continue our emphasis on academics. And the support structure within each company has allowed cadets to stay connected, encouraging each other to persevere in their studies and their physical training as well as their mental health. While I would not wish this situation to anybody, I believe that being in the Corps of Cadets has set these students up for maximum success in these uncertain times. So the bottom line that I just kind of wanted to put together in that my opening statement there before I open up to any questions is that this organization and that which we have here at the Corps, something that I went through, something my wife went through, something many of my friends went through. It was mentioned, every one of the cadets mentioned that their favorite part about the Corps of Cadets was the people that they've met. And I have a picture on my wall here in my office of my senior class in my company. And there's 16 people in that senior class. And I can tell you 30 years later where every single one of those people are, and I have communicated with them in some way, shape, or form within the last 6 months. So the opportunities and the people you meet here at the Corps of Cadets are things that you can take forward for a lifetime of service, whether that's in the military for a career, whether that's in the military for a minimum commitment, or that's working in the civilian industry as you move forward. So with that, that's kind of my opening. I'd like to open into any questions that you might have that didn't get addressed in the cadet panel that we just finished.
So let me make some recommendations on things that, you know, having a deputy commandant is something new and different that we haven't been able to do in the past. And they are going to be one of the main people in your lives when you join the Corps. Each deputy commandant and their corresponding senior enlisted advisor, SEA, they are going to be the ones really involved in your lives. So this is a great time, especially for family members, if you're out there, to ask questions on how would you, a great question I think that's come up in the past, for example, is how can you work with them to help your student make this transition from being at home to being in a college environment? How can you work with them to establish support system in terms of academics, in terms of their lives? So looks like we got a question. All right, do you feel like VTROTC prepared you for life, and have the connections you've made helped you in other aspects of your life?
Okay, just bear in mind that one of the challenges we have here sometimes communicating at Virginia Tech is that there is the Corps of Cadets and the VTs, the ROTCs are it's a symbiotic relationship. We work very closely together. It is my opinion that it's the Corps and the immersion in the daily leadership and daily understanding of what goes into a military type living process that is what prepared me for my life and connection in the military. Matter of fact, we were chatting here. I just got a chat from somebody who was a classmate of mine here, who has a student in the time. Now, I haven't talked to this individual in a really long time, but it's amazing how quickly we're gonna. I bet if we picked up the phone, we would be able to start and already talk about things that we all have in common. So that aspect of being here in the Corps and being immersed in this lifestyle is, I think, one of the things that prepared me best for moving on to the next piece. I wasn't asking a lot of the silly questions like, how to wear the uniform and who I needed to talk to and what a chain of command was and those sorts of things, because I had lived that for 4 years before I stepped into the military. Is there anywhere we can see a pyramid or a hierarchy, what the Corps looks like? I will tell you, if you open up any manual that tells you the structure of an Army regiment, starting with a regimental commander, 3 battalion commanders, that is what we look like. It's something we can easily share. I don't have something right now that I can pop up on the screen, but we do work under an Army style regimental structure. There's a regimental commander with a staff. There are 3 battalions, and each of those has a battalion commander with a staff. And within each of the battalions, there are 4 or 5 companies, and those companies each have a commanding officer and a small staff. And the day-to-day life for a cadet is at the company level. And then within each company, there are 2 platoons, and with each platoon, there are 4 squads, and that's the structure that we use here. So the person that you will be interacting most with day to day, your freshman year especially, will be your squad leader, who is, if you're is a junior cadet who has been through 2 years of the program and has been vetted by the cadet chain of command and the commandant staff, and placed in a position where they're in charge of anywhere from 4 to 12 cadets. What made me join the VTCC, and what were the lessons I learned that prepared me for the service? Okay, I knew I wanted to be in the Navy, and I was looking at a lot of schools. I'm from New York State. I looked at 4 or 5 schools in New York State, and a friend of mine suggested coming to look at Virginia Tech. And as soon as I got here and realized that there was this idea of a Corps of Cadets, this is where I wanted to come. And the reason I wanted to do that is because it gave just what I was talking about. It gave that opportunity to live in both worlds and experience both worlds. There was a military structure in place that gave me the structure to my day. It guaranteed I was going to have study hours. It was all those things that I wanted to put in place for me to be able to focus on my academics. But it wasn't the full-blown, let's go to the military academies where everything is military all the time. And I think the balance that this organization brings is what the advantage was to me. And that's why I chose this organization. Let's see, what else? Any other questions from the chat? I think I've answered the things that were in the chat so far. Any other questions?
Captain McGrath, let me ask you this, so maybe we can help a little. What would be your advice to a family member looking at, knowing that New Cadet Week in the first 6 weeks and all the challenges that we face? What would be your advice to them?
The parents aren't going to want to hear this, but my advice is to let them go. We understand from the very beginning, and I'm telling this to all the potential cadets out there too, we're going to put a lot of demands on freshmen during that first 6 weeks that they're not used to. And we do that on purpose because we want to introduce the understanding that there is something out there. There is something bigger than yourself that we're serving. And that's eventually, when we get to the military aspect, that's where we're going to find ourselves. Is we're going to find ourselves serving this entity that's bigger than ourselves. And that first 6 weeks, there's a lot of demands put on the freshmen, and there's a lot of opportunities for them to feel overwhelmed. And the challenge that parents have with responding to that is when your son or daughter calls and says, "I'm overwhelmed. This is what's happened." Just remember that that there's a lot of people here who are really looking out for them, even though it may seem like to them individually that it's very overwhelming. And what you're hearing from them is one side of the story and their concerns. And I'm not saying that it's not valid. They're definitely their valid feelings. They're definitely their valid understanding of what's going on. But we're not going to put any of the cadets here through anything that they can't handle. And everything we're going to ask them to do is we're fully vetted. We've made sure that it's all safe. It's all leading towards a goal. It's all it's all good things to lead us to what we're trying to do at the end of the process, and that's have a cadet who understands their role in the process. But sometimes it's going to be a little overwhelming, and when you talk and when you're hearing from your cadets back home, it might sound like things are a little overwhelming. My recommendation is that you encourage them to persevere. You encourage them to look into themselves and answer the question of why they wanted to be here. What is their ultimate goal? And in many cases, that ultimate goal is to be a member of the military. And that this is a part of the process to get there. Any other questions?
It might be a redundant question, but I think physical fitness is something a lot of new cadets worry about. What is your recommendation for being prepared for the physical fitness, and what that, and then what is that during New Cadet Week?
Okay, we don't expect everyone to show up here ready to be an Olympic marathoner or an Olympic weightlifter or any of those sorts of things. But I would recommend that that each of you who is going to come here is going to be joining a service. So the service physical fitness tests, that you're either going to be joining a service or the civilian leader track or the VPI battalion, and they use the Navy fitness standards. So know what those fitness standards are. And in most cases, it's some combination of running, sit-ups, and push-ups. And although they might be changing, it's some combination of some running type activity, some aerobic activity, and some strength and some core activity. So I encourage students, especially if you aren't athletic or haven't done anything athletic, that you start looking at your ability to run, your ability to do push-ups, your ability to do sit-ups or crunches, and just work towards those. We're not asking you to come here with everything ready to go necessarily. There's a process to improve your physical fitness if that's not where you started from. So they mentioned earlier, if you want to be a Marine, that PT test happens pretty early in the process, and it's very well publicized what that physical fitness test, what it includes. And if you want to be a Marine option midshipman, this is Navy ROTC, not specifically Corps, then you really should be ready to and able to pass that test before you get here. So it's really going to be there's a lot of personal stuff there, but understanding, making sure that you know how to what running is, making sure you know how to do push-ups, make sure you know how to do sit-ups, and just start that process, and we'll work you through the rest of it. We don't expect everybody to pass the PT test on day one, but we are going to introduce it to you, and we do expect you to have an understanding of what that fitness looks like. And over the summer is not a bad time to start that. Okay, here's a question. If you did JROTC in high school, would there be any benefits of joining the Corps? And I would say absolutely yes. JROTC is not ROTC. It is a great program. It is a great opportunity for you to learn discipline. It's a great opportunity for you to learn about how to wear a uniform. And it's a great opportunity for getting together and learning some basic levels of leadership. But what we're going to be doing here is a little bit different. And in JROTC, it's a couple hours a week where you're working on those things. Here, the biggest difference is we're living the leadership and the process of growing as leaders. We're living it every day, all day. And that's the biggest difference between this program and any other type ROTC program, even the JROTCs. Other questions?
Okay, well, let me go the other side. You talked about physical fitness. What about academic preparation and how to succeed? What is your advice to a new cadet to succeed academically? Okay,
thanks, Colonel Merringer. Good question. If anyone who will sit in any of the numerous talks that I have with the 3rd Battalion, and I know that my compatriots in the 1st and the 2nd Battalion are going to do the same thing, we stress that the academics is our #1 priority. The reason that a student comes to Virginia Tech is to get a world-class college education. Yes, your goal may be commissioning, but in order to commission, you need to get that degree. You need to get the education. You need to get the learning that's here. So that is a major focus that we have here at the Corps, is your academic success. So the first thing I would say to do is to make sure you study hard while you're still in high school. And I think the biggest thing that catches people by surprise in college is how much more rigorous college classes are than high school classes. And that's not a knock on high school. It's just an understanding that in high school, you are in smaller groups. Everyone knows their teacher very well. Their teacher knows the students very well, and the teacher is much more likely to tailor the teaching and the curriculum to the class that they're in that time. So classes all have their personalities. The teachers are going to teach maybe slightly different ways to make sure that the personality of the class is met with the maximum amount of teaching potential. Here in college, there's the teachers aren't looking over your shoulder. Your academic advisor's not looking over your shoulder. There's an expectation that you're going to work that all by yourself. So the first thing you need to bring with you from an academic perspective is you need to bring your self-motivation to do what is asked of you academically from day one. Because elsewhere, in the rest of this university, you're not going to have someone looking over your shoulder. Here in the Corps, we're going to have people who are going to be helping you do that level of academic rigor. We have mandatory quiet hours every evening. It's called evening call to quarters, and that is when the dorms are quiet. The studying is not only being done, but it's highly encouraged. The upperclassmen many of them who have been through the same classes that the new cadets are in, are available for help in classes. And we have a number of opportunities. We have a dedicated academic staff that focuses on ensuring students have access to all the resources that they need, including a number of them that are internal to the Corps. But what you need to bring with you is your understanding that you are going to have to work hard in college. And if you breeze through high school without any work, college will be a rude awakening. So you need to be prepared to work hard on your academics when you get here. All right, anything else?
No, it looks like that's the end. So thank you so much, sir, for being here today. Appreciate you joining us and giving us your insights. And I hope all of you will take his advice to heart, because I think he's given you really good pointers of what you need to be successful here in the Corps. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay, hey, Lieutenant Commander, there's a couple questions that have popped in real quick. I want to go ahead and address those. The first one is, as freshmen, what leadership opportunities do you have? Freshmen do not necessarily have direct leadership positions, but everyone has a leadership opportunity, and that is leading by example, leading by doing the right thing. You can always lead those around you by recognizing what the right thing is and doing it. So those are your leadership opportunities as a freshman, are learning more about yourself and what we call followership, and then leading by your action. And then the other question I had was, if you join the civilian leadership track, do you have a mentor who guides you your freshman year? The civilian leader track has classes and a command structure just like the ROTCs do, and they will walk you through the expectations for the civilian leader track freshman year classes. So just want to throw a couple of those answers out for questions that came here at the last minute. So thanks for inviting me up there, Colonel Manager. Thanks,
sir. Okay. All right, so next we're going to open it up to the Highty-Tighty cadet panel. So if the Highty-Tighty panelists could go ahead and activate their videos so we can see them. All right, welcome. I'm excited to have you guys introduce where you're coming from, because you guys are coming from all over the place. So you're showing up on my on my screen in the order of Miss Gaskell, Miss Sion, and Mr. Bergstall. So could you introduce yourselves in that order? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Gaskell. I'm from Athens, Georgia. I'm a national security and foreign affairs major, and I'm in Army ROTC.
Hello, I'm Mary Ellen Sion. I am originally from Normandy, France. I'm a neuroscience major, and I'm in Navy ROTC.
Hi, I'm Henry Bergstall. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a forestry major, and I'm in Air Force ROTC.
So you guys forgot one of the most important things, I think, is I forgot to ask you to tell us your instruments.
All right.
I play alto saxophone.
I play cymbals.
I play trombone.
So let me open it up and see if anyone has any questions. Are there any participants out there that have questions? Tell us if you play an instrument, please put that in the chat. We'd love to see what instruments are out there. If there happens to be a bagpiper out there, I would love to hear about that. And in the meantime, why don't you, in the same order, why don't you guys tell us about why you chose the band, and maybe a little bit of that, your high school experience, and how that played out in being in the band. So
I did marching band for all 4 years of high school, and I was drum major my last 2 years of high school. And so doing marching band in college was something I really wanted to do. And through the Virginia Tech Corps, I could go to a senior military institution and play in the band at the same time. And I thought that was really awesome.
I actually was in orchestra in high school, and I really loved the music. I did about 7 years of it. So I absolutely wanted to continue on this musical path, so I joined the marching band, and it was a wonderful experience. It is still.
I did marching band for all 4 years of high school. I started playing saxophone in like 6th grade, and I switched to trombone in 8th grade. So I've been playing for a little while. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do band in college because I thought, oh, that's not for me. I'm not a musician. I'm not that great. The Highty-Tighty was an excellent opportunity. It fit well with the Corps. It fit well with what I wanted to do, and I love playing my instrument. So I gave it a shot, and it's probably one of the best decisions I've made in regards to Virginia Tech so far.
So we have some pretty specific questions here. So let me back up here. Let's see. The first question I saw: how many instruments can I play for the band?
You can play as many as you like. You will play one primary instrument. You'll be part of that section. It determines what part of the block you march in when we march as an entire band. But if you want to switch between a French horn and a saxophone, or you want to do percussion, you can play whatever you like. The band has some needs for specific instruments, so it may be helpful if you fill those. But we're definitely not going to turn you away if you play multiple instruments.
There is also multiple music groups, I would say. There's like a jazz band, and there's the marching band where you play your primary instrument, but you can absolutely join other groups to play different instruments. And actually a lot of people discover new instruments and turn out to love it. So yeah, you can play multiple instruments.
Yeah, I know a few people that they play one instrument in marching band, and then when concert season came this past semester, they played a completely different instrument that I didn't even know they could play. So there is opportunity to play more than one instrument.
So we do have a bagpiper in the crowd. So who would like to address how bagpipe works with bands?
I can do it. I actually did it for a little while. I went to a couple of practices because I wanted to learn. You obviously, I think the comment said that you played saxophone for like bagpipes for 6 years, which is awesome. They'll teach you if you have no skills at all, you don't play an instrument at all from the ground up, but it starts, I think, the second semester of your freshman year is when you can start playing with the bagpipe group. You go to practices, and if you can already play bagpipes, they'll probably let you start with doing like practicing for performances and stuff like that. Their band is a little bit different from the Highty-Tighties. You can join the bagpipe group if you're not on the Highty-Tighties, but there are some Highty-Tighties in that group, and they perform at football games and parades and stuff like that, just like the Highty-Tighties do. So if you were to play bagpipes, that would, on most occasions, probably be your primary thing.
Standing. So a question for you. I play clarinet. How does the band schedule work with the VTCC and ROTC schedules? And I might throw in academics there too.
Well, being part of the band, all your trainings for the Corps are scheduled, as well as all your music practices that are incorporated into your schedule. So everything works out fine. You will practice during a Highty-Tighty hour, basically, where we have 3 practices a week, and usually a performance this Saturday, which is the football game. And during the spring semester, since there's no football games, we actually participate in the basketball games. That's like 2 or 3 times a week, and you can play clarinet or play another instrument, such as like stand-up bass. I see that a young man here wrote that he played that instrument. So yeah.
So real quick, actually, for my edification, during the spring semester and basketball season, does everybody in the band do every basketball game, or do you guys sign up? How does that work?
It's a sign up thing. So we have a giant Google sheet with like multiple tabs for each game, and we have certain slots for certain instruments, and we need so many people that play that instrument per game. And so you can do concert band in the spring, or you can choose to do just pep band. So if you're in the concert band right now, you don't have to go to any of the games, but it's highly encouraged that you do go to basketball games. Whereas if you do pep band, I think this year it was 3 required to get the band credit. And so they have to go to 3 of the games, but you're encouraged to do more.
Yeah, you can do as many or as little as you like. I went to all but like 2 of the games this semester, I think, and I have 19 credits. That's a full credit load.
We have a question. I play trombone, and I was wondering what range I should aim.
What range? Hold on. Let me see the question. I'm not quite understanding what that means. Oh, I see. Honestly, we take trombones of all sorts of different skill levels and abilities. One of my best buds, who's in my my graduating class, he hadn't played trombone he hadn't played since before high school. He joined up, and now he's doing a fantastic job. We do tenor trombones. You don't need to bring your own trombone. They have plenty of them that are stored up in the band stores. You can play bass trombone if you'd like to. I think I saw a question about that earlier. We have bass trombones in concert band and jazz band mostly, but we mostly play like marching tenor trombones.
Here's one that's a little off the band topic, but I still think a good question. It says, Miss Gaskell, how was the National Security and Foreign Affairs major?
Oh, I find it like seriously interesting. It's really in the International Studies department. So it's basically like you're completing a political science degree with a foreign language. But as you get into it, there's more specific classes into like terrorism and cybersecurity and stuff like that. And I'm only in my freshman year, so I can't really speak to it too much, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun for me. There's a great political science and international studies department on the Virginia Tech campus. And if you're thinking about it and you like just like political science in general, and you can do a foreign language, I would say that you should go through with the National Security and Foreign Affairs.
Great. Here's one. I play French horn, and I play in a concert band. How big of an adjustment will it be to join a marching band?
I can take that one. It's not that big of an adjustment. So if you've never marched your instrument before, that will be a little bit of an adjustment, but all the marching skills that you need will be covered in New Cadet Week and very early on. Most of your freshman year, believe it or not, playing wise is focused on getting you to march correctly, marching in step, looking good, making the facing movements correctly, because the Highty-Tighties do a little bit different marching when they're performing. There are a couple moves that the regular Army marching and Corps doesn't do. And so your freshman year, that's the expectation, that you focus on those movements, and that the upperclassmen will pick up a lot of the music and the sound. Of course, if you're ready to play while you're marching, you are more than welcome to, but you have plenty of time, and there's not a whole lot of pressure to be, a master at your instrument while you're marching.
I actually had never marched before, and you catch on pretty quick. Everybody's doing the same thing. You have to be in sync, so you learn pretty fast. It's interesting, and then you incorporate the music, like Henry said. So it's a good way to learn and look good.
Well,
I know that
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I know that it's a lot different from like a traditional marching band style because it's a military style marching band. So you're still rolling your feet and you're still doing all that kind of stuff, but it's also, you're marching in a formation. It's not as much of like what the marching Virginians do, which is the more traditional marching band style.
Okay, so here's a really important question. Are there tryouts and how does it work to get in? And I'm have Mr. Bergstall answer that one.
Sure. There are no tryouts. If you want to join the Highty-Tighties and you have played an instrument before, you are in. We will take you. We will teach you everything that you need to know. You don't have to feel worried about your playing ability. We prefer wind instruments and marching band instruments. If you play the trombone or the mellophone or the trumpet or anything like that, we would love to have you. If you play percussion, we would certainly love to have you. String instruments, singing, other musical experience, we will definitely still take you. There's no tryout that is required, but we are always looking for people for sure. Does that answer the question?
Yes. So does the band march French horns or mellophones?
Mellophones. It's hard to march a French horn. It'd be kind of weird to hold, and they're not loud enough for the field.
Next question is, does senior chief need bass bones?
Not so much on the bass trombone side, just because they're cumbersome and they're kind of hard to carry while you're on the field. If you would like to play a bass trombone on the field, you'd have to take that up with senior chief, but we are always looking for trombones. You can never, ever have enough trombones in a marching band like ours.
Okay, here's one. How often do you travel, local and non-local events?
I'd say we don't really travel that much, considering we only go to the home football games. We have to march across campus to get to those football games, and we do a little extra marching in comparison to the line companies when they're going to the games. But we go to the ACC women's tournament, and for the past few years, we've been taking a band trip over spring break, and we were supposed to go to Hilton Head this year, but that got canceled. So not too much, but it's mostly just across campus.
Right. There's usually one big band event that we actually travel to. This year is supposed to be Hilton Head. Last year, it was the St. Patrick's Day parade in Savannah, Georgia. We take one big travel trip during the semester, but the rest of our events are usually on campus. We occasionally do like Veterans Day parades, like in Roanoke. My freshman year, we went to Roanoke and did a parade there. But the long-term travel is fairly limited. Most of the events happen on campus or in the Blacksburg area.
Let's see. I play percussion and piano. Is it necessary to have prior marching band experience?
I'll take that one. I actually played percussion and piano in middle and high school. And like I said, I had never done marching band or anything. So I invite you to come try it out and discover a whole new musical experience. It's a lot of fun.
Here's one. What does the average band practice look like and how often?
So it depends on the season. Fall season is football game season. And so when you're enrolled in the band class, it's Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They start at 4:45. They go for about an hour 15 minutes, give or take, depending on the day. We go out to the drill field. If you guys are familiar with the campus, we go to the far end of the drill field. We do marching practice. Sometimes once a week, we'll do music practice to make sure that everybody has their music down, which is an indoor practice. But usually we do a lot of work on the marching, making marching techniques for each show, because we perform at least almost every other week or sooner. Every football game we go and we march a show for all the fans there. And that takes a lot of practice. So it's not any extra time from what the Corps would have you doing anyway. During that time, line companies are doing stuff like company athletics and marching practice, spirit things for their company. That's the time that we take for our band practice, and you get a credit for it.
And also on the Friday before we have a game or the night before we have a game, we'll have a longer practice, usually at the indoor football practice facility, and we stay there much longer. We all go out to eat before then, and then we go and we practice until we get it right, and then we get to go back to the dorms afterwards.
In a way, you guys have addressed this a little bit, but the specific question is, how do you balance the core, ROTC, your major, and band?
A lot of that is just, you know, figuring out your own schedule. So a lot of people like to say that the band is a whole lot of extra time commitment and that there's no time for band or anything like that. That's really not true. During band practices and band events like weekend football games, you would be doing something anyway with the corps. So if you're going to join the corps, you've already set aside that time to go do something, to either, you know, march into the game and attend the football game, do the homecoming parade, do pass and review, or you're doing company athletics or things like that. There are a lot of cadets that, you know, fit that time into their schedules and make it work. It may take a little bit if you're not used to this kind of volume of activities and things like that, especially if you're doing it on your own without your parents for your first time. But everything is very guided your freshman year. It's basically, you know, you go here, you do this at that specific time, and a lot of the pressure is off on you. You don't have to make a whole lot of those decisions. They give you a specific time and you got to clear it out and you go show up to your practice or you go show up to your ROTC events. And ROTC and the corps and the band are very good about talking to one another and deconflicting things. So if there's a big event that your ROTC needs you to go to and the corps is planning something on that same weekend, they can talk to each other and they can usually work that out. It is very rare that there's something that you can't go to or you don't have enough time to go to because they're both happening at the same time with the corps.
So this is along the same lines, but it says, how different is band company life than a typical cadet company?
I think that, well, most of the line companies at the end of their freshman year, they get shuffled into the sophomore shuffle and they're going through all sorts of different battalions and stuff. But band company, all the freshmen know they're going to kind of be stuck with each other for the next 4 years of their life. So you have to deal with, you have more freshmen that you have to know, you have more upperclassmen that you have to know. It's just, there's a lot of, like, there's also a bit of confusion sometimes because there's two band companies, but then there's also the band company. And it's just it's a different culture from the rest of the line companies, I'd say. A lot of the line companies have sorts of disagreements that the band companies don't seem to have as much from my experience as a freshman. And it's a different standard as well for performance and excellence.
I would add that every company is special. I think by now you know that every company has a different name and they all do very different activities, because if everybody did the same thing, then what's the point of having different companies? This diversity brings, it unifies all of us and makes us one core. So the fact that we have different activities in every company is really nice. And you don't get to choose which company you go to, but you can make the best of your company and have a really good time within the company you are. So yes, band is different because we do music, which others don't, but we really enjoy it and we want people who want to be there and want to make the best company as we can.
So a really generic question, how big is band?
Right now, I think we're at right about 120 members, somewhere 120, 140. It changes sometimes. We have transfer students. We have people who leave the band for different reasons. We have people who go and do study abroad. And I think right now we're sitting at about 120, 140.
Here's a pretty technical question. What does the process of memorization look like, and does the music sync somewhat with the march?
Oh yeah. It's all military marching is very precise. Each movement is it's simple in the way that it's like left turns and right turns, and it's very precise, you know, squared movements. And they go along pretty well with the music. Memorization is mostly on your own time. You are permitted to practice. If you have a mute or something, you're allowed to practice in your dorm room whenever you like. You're encouraged to practice. There are practice rooms open across the street for any of the Highty-Tighties that they'd like to go to and have someplace quiet that they can practice for themselves. And you're also, whenever we play music at band practice, you know, we warm up a little bit, we play through some of the songs, and that is a lot of your time to memorize. We don't have an insanely large repertoire that we have. It's not like we have like 80 songs that you have to memorize in your first year. For each show, it's usually, you know, 4 to 6 songs at a maximum that are familiar military march tunes in most cases, that you know the sound of and you'd be able to, you know, put your music to pretty well. And we practice it the same couple of marches over and over again that we have in our back pocket to pull out for performances.
And the marching actually most of the time syncs up with the rhythm of the music. So obviously you're not going to like look at a piece of paper with all your movements on it. You're going to memorize it, and we're going to repeat it so much that you're going to know at what point in the music to turn left or turn right or do a special movement, just because we practice it a lot and it makes sense.
To people who may not understand, in our marching style, we don't like have you walk 11 paces to the left and then you stop and you hold on for like 8 counts. And in most of our shows, we're led by a drum major. If you've ever seen the Highty-Tighties perform on YouTube, if you've ever seen them perform live, I have a drum major that leads the band and gives whistle and mace commands so that the front rank knows exactly which direction they're going when they're doing it, and you follow along just like that. And so you get those basic commands down. You understand, you know, he points his mace in this direction, I have to go in this direction. He makes this whistle command, this is what we're about to do. It's a little bit of a learning curve just because it's something like I know, but most people haven't done before, but it comes naturally, and after a while you're like, oh, it's time to go left, or time to, you know, counter march, turn around.
So there was a question about the 2 bands versus the bands. So maybe we should talk about that just a little bit. I think it confused somebody.
Well, sorry, Ms. Gaskill, do you want to go?
Yeah, I can take that because I brought it up. So we have 2 band companies just to split up the entire band because we're so large. So there's band company A and there's band company B, but at the end of the day, when we go places, we're just the band. We're not band A or band B. So the band A and band B thing is like it's more of an administrative thing for the Corps, whereas band company is the entire group. So there's not going to be too much difference. There's going to be 0 difference in training between the 2 groups, but it's just about not having such a massive company at the end of the day.
Thank you. I think that helps. Also, here's one. Now, I am totally biased, so maybe you guys should answer this one. But can you do 2 years of the Highty-Tighties and 2 years of the Marching Virginians?
You have to, well, for one thing, you have to try out for the Marching Virginians. So if you can't do them both at the same time if you wanted to do that. It's either the Highty-Tighties at one time or the Marching Virginians at one time. I don't know if I've seen anybody in the Corps try out for the Marching Virginians, because the Corps has its own band. If you wanted to join band and you were also in the Corps, you would think your first go-to would be the Highty-Tighties. I have seen people who have left the Corps for whatever reason. They figure it's not for them. They don't want to do the military. They leave and then they go try out. One of my buds left after my freshman year and went and tried out for the Marching Virginians, is now with them. So I guess you could, technically. I don't know why you would want to. If you wanted to do Highty-Tighties your first 2 years and then leave and then go Marching Virginians, you certainly could do that. But I think in most cases, once you're in the Highty-Tighties and you still want to do band, you won't be leaving.
Also, it's important to know that the Marching Virginians is a very competitive organization, as well as it is a hugely time-consuming activity. You will practice every day for at least 2 hours. Actually, it's every night. It doesn't really fit with your core schedule because a lot of things will overlap. So when you're in the Corps, it's not recommended that you try for the Marching Virginians, but I mean, if you want to try it, you might be the first one. Go for it.
On that note, they say if I try out and make the MVs, do I have to wear my uniform?
You'd have to work that out with your chain of command, because when the MVs perform, the Corps is also doing their thing. So if you go to a football game and you're trying to play with the Marching Virginians, they're on the other side of the stadium from the Highty-Tighties and the Corps Cadets. So you would have to work that out with your deputy commandant most likely and have to physically go in there and be like, hey, I'd like to play for the Marching Virginians for this game. May I wear my Marching Virginians uniform? And I think because you're performing with them, you would probably wear the Marching Virginians uniform. If you're not participating with the Corps at that time, you can't wear the uniform, not only because it doesn't go with the Marching Virginians uniform, but also because you're not participating and representing the Corps in a Corps sense. You're representing the Marching Virginians at that point.
Okay. Would you be able to do jazz band and marching band?
Absolutely. You absolutely would. I do both. I've been in the jazz band since my freshman year, as well as the marching band and concert band. You can definitely do it. You get credits for both of them. They're classes as well as, you know, extracurriculars, and they're scheduled at times that don't conflict with any of your regular classes. If you want to do jazz band and you play a jazz instrument, you should definitely try out. It's a lot of fun. It's not that, you know, military marching, military all the time kind of vibe. It's the you know, you're a jazz musician. It's a lot of fun.
Also, in order to be in jazz band, you don't necessarily have to be either a Highty-Tighty or a Corps cadet or a cadet, sorry. We have civilians that play with us as well. So it's a nice tight group. We learn a lot about other people and and we just like meet new people.
Okay, so one last question. If you were giving advice to new cadets who were thinking about being in the Corps and being in the band, what advice would you give to them? And let's, should we do it, Ms. Sion, Ms. Gaskell, and Mr. Bergstall, will you wrap it up?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. So what would you, what piece of advice would you give to a new cadet or student who's thinking about being in the Corps and being in band?
Your buds will be they will save your life. I cannot stress enough how much you need to bond with them because they will get you through anything. They might not show that they're having a hard time, but just know that you're all going through the same thing and just stick together and everything will be fine.
Yeah, just to jump off of that, teamwork is key, especially in the your first year. There have been I wouldn't say altercations, but disagreements. They can go far. I mean, you're living together, you're doing pretty much everything together on the weekends, at least 1 or 2 hours at the least. You'll be spending time with your buds. So just try to stay clear-headed in the difficult times because things that happen within the company can also affect just how the group reacts to anything. So stay clear-headed and work together.
Sure. I definitely agree with that. And there's one thing I wanted to say also about freshman year. If you're coming to the Corps Cadets and you're set on going to the Corps Cadets, you play an instrument or you're interested in music or you've got musical experience and you're kind of on the fence about joining the Highty-Tighties, I cannot recommend it enough. And I'm sure anybody who's here on this panel today would say the exact same thing. If you're on the fence, at least give it a try. When it comes closer to the time when you guys matriculate, comes closer to New Cadet Week, you'll you'll have chances to say yes to the band or say no to the band. We have a free trial period if you want, per se. It's like 2 weeks at the beginning of the semester if you want to give the band a shot, but you're not quite sure about it. Definitely take those opportunities. See what the band is about. See all the kind of fun that we can have. See the camaraderie that everybody has in between each other. It's a unique experience that you cannot get anywhere else, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Well, we got one last question. I really think, well, two last questions I think are super important, and then we are going to call it. Do you have band camp in the summer? And can I get a band scholarship?
Yes. So freshmen, incoming freshmen do not have to go to band camp, but all returning upperclassmen will. And it is only 1 week, so nothing crazy. It's a lot of fun as well.
And when is that week?
It's during New Cadet Week. So for freshmen, when you're coming in your first year, you're doing New Cadet Week, just like any of the regular line companies would be doing, but you're doing it with the rest of your band buds. And when you come back as a sophomore, junior, and senior, that's when band camp happens. While you guys are doing New Cadet Week, that's when the band camp is happening. And yes, you can get a band scholarship. It's a $1,000 stipend for your first year. And you can also get emerging leadership scholarships from specific Highty-Tighty and band donors that increases the longer that you're in the Corps.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming today. Really glad to see you all and glad you're all healthy. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the panel, and thank you very much for coming today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here. Thank you, ma'am.
Here are some results from a search. Okay, so next up, we have one quick ending to wrap up today. Thank you for those of you who have stayed here. I have the Commandant. He has some closing comments, and we'll play those, and let me get that started.
Hello, I'm Major General Randy Fullhart, Commandant of Cadets at Virginia Tech. I'd like to add my welcome to the parents and young adults who are watching this film. I hope the information we provided you today has been helpful. At the end of the day, you're trying to make an important decision. Where will you go to ensure your leadership skills are developed to the max extent possible? Well, since 1872, we've been developing leaders of character, shaped by dedicated professionals who are committed to your success. If you're ready to walk a path less traveled, to be at a place that will challenge you and reward hard work, the Virginia Tech Corps of Cadets is where you want to be. See you soon.
Okay, so just a reminder for all of you who are still here, thank you so much for hanging out to the end. We're really glad. We hope you got some good information, and we are going to be posting this to our website. I should let you know the Navy's already sent me their link, so hopefully it won't be a couple days. Hopefully it'll be very shortly here. We will post all this to the internet, so if you missed anything, you can go back and catch it. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's CORPS, that's CORPS, at vt.edu, or you can call us at 540-231-6858. And of course, you can visit our website, and we will be focused a lot on the new cadets coming in, so you can check out the quick start guide there, as well as all of these sessions that we have online. And that is vtcc.bt.edu for the main page, and then it would be /visit for the spend the night. So looking forward to welcoming you. If you are an offered cadet and you have made the decision to be here, we are very excited to have you here. I know you guys have had a challenging year with everything going on with COVID-19. The challenges probably aren't over yet, but we are looking forward to your class, and we are very excited to possibly be welcoming you to campus. Right? Have a great Hokie day.